And we are just in time to see the big scooperino from Maxwell Mick.
A food mirror. Christian Hauk was on Sultai and Mick.
Hello, welcome. So we're going to watch the Mythic Championships.
Really
together. We're going to sit here. We're going to watch the Mythic Championships. We're going to stream. We're going to do some stuff. We're going to sit here. We're going to drink some beer. We're going to chill out with all you guys. Welcome. Welcome. We're going to get everything fired up. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it with us. We're going to get all of the magical stuff on, and we're just going to sit and we're going to chill and watch the Mythic Championships. We're going to comment, we're going to see what goes on, and we're going to do it together, because that seems like a reasonable thing to do. Why would we not do that? It seems amazing.
Haven't seen that fella for a long time.
Cool.
We've got Eternal Ketra for some extra.
Looking on my phone.
The late game, but
nice. Cool. Well, hopefully that's good. Hopefully we've got everything set up, and we're just gonna see what goes on. Hopefully you guys are good, and we're just gonna watch. And you send me your comments, and we'll have a conversation. So let's see what goes on. Enjoy. Thank you guys.
2-mana exile target flavor text or whatever there. But look, I don't know if that card's going to be super relevant in this situation. It does block zombie tokens from
it's not,
Austin Bursovic. There's not really any reason to bring that one in, but still an interesting piece of technology.
Yeah, it was very instrumental against like the Rakdos Knight decks, so essentially the decks that were trying to beat Noxus Grasp. And Aether since, well, that's mostly the black aggressive ones. But we'll probably see something like Conclave Tribunal. Gideon Blackblade, I don't think so much, even on the play, because the issue with it is it runs into Vraska a little too cleanly.
Yeah.
And
That's a good point.
even then, like the elves come out, the planeswalkers have too much loyalty. So Questing Beast, though, something we'll probably see coming in, and Veil of Summer as well. But
Cuneo down to 6 here by the look of it, Eduardo.
But I think Cuneo's plan post-board is mostly stay the same and aggressively mulligan to go wide board, and that's kind of it. The scariest card from Austin, well, is Massacre Girl. And the fact that you can get that more easily with Once Upon a Time, if you see Massacre Girl hit the table from Austin, it's probably going to be quite devastating.
Cuneo finds an Edgewall Innkeeper from Once Upon a Time, and he may indeed play at turn 1. We've seen him do some absolutely ridiculous stuff with this card throughout the day. 4 copies of it on the table at one point when he was really slamming and jamming. But the first one, I mean, and this is the key thing about this card, especially on the play, it comes down before you've got any chance to interact with it as an opponent.
Right, that's why you see it on turn 1. Normally you wait till turn 2, but Cuneo has 5 white cards.
Yep.
Not a plains.
We're going to see a heartbreaking moment here, even with Fairy Guidemother, even with Shepherd of the Flock. Unfortunately, Cuneo, after having taken that mulligan, is unable to do anything with his Innkeeper. Bursovic playing on easy mode here. Cuneo picks up another Forest, but again, 5 white cards means that he cannot do anything. This is heartbreaking for Cuneo.
I mean, we'd also had a game with 4 Edgewall Innkeepers, so, you know, swings and roundabouts.
That is true. I mean, you know, you win some, you lose some, and Cuneo now finds a Once Upon a Time. This is, I mean, if he can find an untapped white source, it's going to be a very different kettle of fish here. And it's Temple Garden. All right, okay. This means the rebuilding process...
The thumbnail for this is crappy, but I didn't think about that, so...
Yeah,
I need to change the thumbnail. Hang on, bear me 2 seconds.
There was no Noxious Grass so far. You know there's none because... Austin Bursovic would have played it in that spot.
You kill it straight away. You kill that thing on site. Edgewall Innkeeper is too good to let live.
Right, so you know that something else is coming. It's a Planeswalker, and it's potentially a Vraska Golgari Queen. At least we get to draw a card, but I just don't think that Andrew has time. If Andrew Cuneo had that white source from the start,
he'd be firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, those would have been a bunch of Loxodons coming down, Unbreakable Formation, Massacre Girl wouldn't have been able to do much, but here. Oh, wow.
Oh, it's even better. It's even better than Vraska. It's Wicked Wolf, because that Vraska would have left itself open to the Fairy Guidemother. However, here, Wicked Wolf eating up that Edgewall Innkeeper. Shouldn't let wolves into an inn. I've always said this. Don't let wolves into public ale houses. It's not a good business policy. Here is a flower now for Cuneo. These white cards are beginning to become unlocked in his hand, but Eduardo, it may be too little too late.
Right, and this turn specifically, Andrew Cuneo could have had the option to play the Loxodon by drawing a land straight up, but just can't because it was a Flower Flourish. So Andrew Cuneo here probably is going to set up for the best possible Loxodon, since I mean, it's possible to play Conclave Tribunal, but I just don't think you mind the Wicked Wolf in front of you so much now. So I kind of like this play of, well, look, I just got to deploy my Fret.
And Conclave Tribunal is a nice, neat answer to a card like Wicked Wolf, which leans very heavily on its indestructible ability in order to stay alive. So I like it as an answer, but again here, Cuneo a little more developed in pressuring his, a little bit more interested in developing his board, pressuring his.
Hey guys, that's right, phone. We're going to design a thumbnail live for you guys. Why not? Sod it. We're going to design a thumbnail live because that's the thing. We're going to load up Photoshop and we're going to design a thumbnail live for you. I'm going to go through my process. We're going to open up my YouTube channel. We're going to open up live stream stuff. We're going to open up no, we're not. Where is it? Where are you? Thumbnails, live streams, MTGA. We're going to line up my Alt 2. We're going to open up the picture that I've just saved, which is in Pictures. In MTG Arena. And where is my Mythic Championships pick? I've just saved. It's there. We're going to copy that. We're going to drop it over here. Very small. It's going to be ropey as you like. We're going to edit. We are going to transform this and we're going to scale it. We're going to hold down Shift so we scale it reasonably. Oh, brutal. That looks horrible. Let's see if we can find a better picture. That's horrific. Let's see if we can find a less horrific picture. Mythic Champs MTG. Let's see if we can find a less horrible. Is that better? We need a better picture. There we go. Save image as. Save it in there. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. File. Open. Where is the... There we go. Mythic Championships. We're going to copy that picture. We are going to drop it into here. We're going to get rid of this and drop it into our bin. We're going to take the picture that we really want to use, which is this one here. And we're going to edit it. We are going to transform it and we're going to scale it. Oh, there we go. We're going to scale it. Then we are going to take our live logo. We're going to move it over to here because that would seem like a reasonable place to that. We're going to take this. We're going to take the bake into a pie text. We're going to move it down here probably. We'll edit it. We'll transform it. We'll scale it. I think probably what we're going to do is we're going to save that. And we're actually going to turn... I reckon we're going to turn this, all of it off. And then turn the how-to off. Where's the how-to at? How-to. And then get hold of the MTGA. Move it. Turn the arrow off as well. And then just have Mythic Championships Arena live. And then we're going to go a border. We're going to select the border. We're going to pick up the color from the logo. And we're going to dye that logo red. Like that. We are going to go file. We are going to save that as. We're going to turn it into a JPEG. And we're going to save it. In Photoshop. Nice. We're then going to ditch all this. No, we don't want to save it. Cool. We are then going to go back to our thumbnail. We're going to go dashboard. We are going to go to our YouTube dashboard. I'm sharing all of this with you. This is like the process. We're going to edit the video. We're going to edit the video here. We're going to go to our thumbnail. We're going to change it. We are going to go to our Mythic Championships 5 thumbnail. We're going to call it Mythic Champs Live. Mythic Champs BI live commentary. We're going to take that. We're obviously going to put that as our title. We're going to drop that in here as well. Going to get rid of that. We are going to select it. We're going to put it in this. We're going to put it in the Mythic Booster. We're going to save it, and then we're going to save it. And in theory, wonderful theory, we're then going to go to Twitch. We are going to go, where is the Magical Mythics? Magic the Gathering. We're going to go to the champs.
The wind firmly in Bursavic's
there we go.
sails. Snapping and flapping.
In theory now, we're now live with our cool thumbnail.
Towards the coasts of top 8. Back to Cuneo now. Double elephants for him.
They're not looking that strong in the face of this overwhelming board presence, though.
No, I mean, he's done his best to stay in this one, but it's slowly but surely slipping out of his grasp.
We're on YouTube.
Incremental advantage provided by Oko, provided by...
let's see where we're going. Welcome.
Curving it into cards like Wicked Wolf and what have you. That Legion's End doing good work as well. Cuneo finding a shepherd of the flock.
We're just going to chill now and watch the champs together.
Does that help any? Not really.
And part of that was that Cuneo obviously had to deal more damage, so that's why you saw the main phase March of the Multitudes. Even though it walked into Legion's End and a potential Massacre Girl, Cuneo just needed that, like, such a large board presence, and that's why you saw that play rather than sacrificing some damage for a larger one. You just needed to make things, like, larger.
Big attacks now with the Unbreakable formation powering up.
Alexa, turn Streamlight on.
Go both at Oko, but the Goose jumps in the way of one of these elephants, meaning
Alexa, turn front room lights down by 50%.
And of course, indestructible after the Unbreakable formation. Very important card in these white-based creature decks. Prevents you from being blown out by sweepers and also just pushes through a bunch of damage when the board is stalled out.
Yeah, the reason we've seen this card see a little more play and constructed is really that. Oh, but while see that interesting play.
So here's Conclave Tribunal bounced by the Shepherd of the Flock, and it's actually this time going to go after the Conclave Tribunal. So Cuneo deciding that the Tribunal is better served putting away the Krasis than the Vraska.
That's a really nice interaction. You can get rid of a Krasis and then bounce it. You can do it the other way around, which is even more powerful.
Yeah, of course.
Because you usher to safety, the Krasis comes back to 0-0 and you get a Vraska. But yeah, here, not looking great for Cuneo.
No, after a second, Oko elks another creature in order to
Jesus,
push
that was
lethally.
like the speed of that play. Like the guy, like he knew he'd won. Just like you can just tell when people go into the zone and they just start tapping things. It's just so like literally you can tell when people start tapping things and they go into that brutal like tap 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 tap. Like you can just see people dial into the zone. They literally start tapping things. They go into that magical place and like brutal things occur. Like that's just the way it goes. That's literally the way it goes. It's so disgusting. Like 11 out of 10. So good. So good. Just trying to have a look now as to whether all the channel art has kicked in. Yeah, Mythic Champs live. Cool, it's kicked in. Mythic Championships 6 live commentary. Yeah, sweet, it's kicked in. Sweet. Well, hopefully you guys will enjoy it. We're just going to sit here. We're going to have a beer. We're going to chill. So if you've got any comments, just give me a shout. And we're going to sit here. We're going to get snuggled in. We're going to watch day 2 of the Mythic Champs and hopefully enjoy it. Just ask any questions that you have. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new. And also don't forget to check out our sponsor, Mythic. So bustedmagic.com / Mythic Booster for anything that you want to know.
What the card is, but yeah.
I don't know what the card is, mate. What is the card?
Bizarre back.
What are we watching?
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah, we're playing grandma magic with stuff like that, stories like that. That's a story from the olden days. Here's
I love the Beta
Speaking of which,
Islands.
didn't that
Beta
card,
Islands look lush.
Allow a Black Lotus to finally live its
yeah,
dream.
and fulfill its destiny and win a big championship as a 3/3 elf. But right now, 2019, it is the year of the Thief of Crowns, and here he is on turn 2, as the prophets foretold, thanks to Gilded Goose. So, Mick living his best life, playing Oko on turn 3. That's what he wants to be doing.
Turn 2.
Turn 2, excuse me, of course, thanks to the Goose. And now on turn 3, he's ready to rumble with, any number of things. He's got Once Upon a Time, Paradise Druid, good opportunity for him to consolidate after a strong start.
And here the big play was actually Christian Hawk missing on a mana creature from the Once Upon a Time. The idea was have Once Upon a Time.
It's like typical Oko plays though, so like with the typical Oko plays.
Creature, so now I'm behind, and Paradise Druid, Gilded Goose, Oko Thief of Crowns. Christian Hawk is really behind.
Yeah, he's really right up against it. Here is the German. His hand is.
This is horrific though. It's like turn 4, Oko in play, all the ramp, 2 food. It's not great. But again, like Beta Forest, like I love this guy. Like repping the old school to the max. Like to me, I love the old school cards. So to see all these beta basics is just like amazing.
It's important to not necessarily Hollywood or sell here. It's more I don't want my opponent to necessarily always tap out for the biggest thing every turn, because that is going to lead to problems.
Well, looks like Mix is going to do it anyway. Here is Gadwick the Wizened, where X equals 2. So draw 2 cards, a little Muldrifter action here. As Oko goes downstairs, let me get that wolf off you, he says. Here's a food token for you, my friend.
And the problem that Christian Hawk is facing now is, well, at least there's a Wicked Wolf.
The switch is horrific. Like the switch is, I take your thing is horrible. So bad.
But
so
Nissa
bad.
Would be pressured here. So I'm actually surprised to see it in this spot, just because it would be. It seems really easy for Maxwell to take down this in a spot like this.
He can put pressure on it very easily thanks to both the Wicked Wolf and the Gadwick. However, this attack is a nice one, threatening to take down the Oko.
Maxwell's got a handful of land from what I can see. There's like 3 lands.
I actually wonder, because Maxwell Mick has access to an Oko in hand, I kind of would just like to see the Oko in play go, because Gadwick could have tapped down that land by playing the other Oko, and that would have been a clean takedown on Nissa, who
so we've got 2 basic islands.
Maxwell Mick wanting to take care of that land, maybe wanting to deploy something else this turn, like a Hydroid Krasis as a 4/4 flyer.
Upstairs with Oko creates food. Now there's the attack on the Nissa. No blocks available for our,
brutal.
our MPL player Christian Hauck.
Like with any of these new planeswalkers, like you have to take them down. Like if you have Nissa on the battlefield, if you have Oko on the battlefield, you have to take them down. Otherwise, it's a world of hurt.
I'd say so, especially after a Game 1 win here. Mick will be sailing on to victory if things go his way with all of that interaction in hand. Not to mention the threat, backup Oko, Hydroid Krasis as well. It's all coming up Maxwell.
It really is.
Hauck decides to cast the Wicked Wolf here. Now that can go after the Paradise Druid, but no.
Oh, Aether Gust! Wow.
Mystical Dispute takes care of the Wolferino. Back to Mick now.
Wow.
Gets to untap. Can deploy a Krasis if he so chooses, or can hold up that Veil of Summer, maybe play a
So it's a 4-power Krasis, draw 2 cards.
X equals 4, make a food attack with Wicked Wolf, and keep up Veil of Summer.
Yep. X equals 4.
Looks like Mick may actually agree with your assessment there, as we see the pretty, that's the sweet spot, right?
Is this on the stack?
The classic Hydroid Krasis card.
So is it resolved?
You get your value.
So resolved, yeah, X equals 4, draw 2.
Oh, also Mystical Dispute, just in case.
Nice.
Okay, Oko makes a food there, using a D12 to go up to 7. All right, wow, this is very colourful commentary from Maxwell Mick once again.
Yeah, this is brutal.
I called it before.
I quite like Christian Hauck. Christian Hauck does some good. He can pilot a deck.
You're gonna need a lot more cards to battle this board. But the mystical dispute off the top from Maxwell Mick is going to be really brutal here because it's going to mean a
Eat the popcorn.
dominant board presence is maintained.
All right, so we are going to see Hulk draw the cards, of course, off of the Crisis. You can't stop that. But
No.
with the Mystical Dispute, it means the 4/4 won't enter the battlefield. And yes, of course, there's Tails, and yes, everyone knows that. Well done. Technically correct is the best kind of correct, but it's not happening here, so...
Yeah, just the Elk, the Hydroid Crisis, the deal. Just maximize the damage.
And also maximize the pace of play. Maxwell Mick is just playing at absolute lightning speed here, and Hulk has no
speed is insane.
Enormous attack.
Absolutely disgusting.
He went from strength to strength, this chap, and never really looked to stop his onslaught. That was a blink and you'll miss it affair, Eduardo.
Yeah, and it came down to two things.
Like the speed that...
No mana creature from Hulk.
The speed that these players play when they know what they're doing is absolutely insane. Like, it's so good. Really, really impressive. They go through the process. They know their deck. They know the deck they're playing against. It's so impressive. So impressive.
Sultai and Cynic have been pretty even. It's been a pretty even kill between the two decks all weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Frank crunched the numbers, and it's pretty much that. It's which one do you prefer, the more tempo-orientated version, which is defined by Simic, or the more grindy mid-range version defined by Sultai.
But you can't separate them. They're in broad strokes very similar, but there's a lot of internal variation that means that they are at least a little bit different, and it's difficult to separate them.
I was actually going to mention Paolo and Josh, Paolo Vitor Dama de Rosa and Josh Adelaide were both on Simic food, but very different versions. One playing Paradise Druid and Mass Manipulation, the other one going more for Growth Spiral, Aethergust, and a more tempo-orientated style of gameplay. So even within the same colors, I mean, the core is the same across the board. There's 20 cards. Gilded Goose, Once Upon a Time, This So Shakes the World, Hydroid Crisis, Oko Thief of Crowns. As long as you got those 20, and some breeding pool and some lands, the rest is kind of like decorational.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, my friends, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back at the desk with Rich and Maria after this, so don't go anywhere. We're back live from Richmond, Virginia at Mythic Championship 6 in just a few moments.
Guys, enjoy Mythic Championship 6. I'm going to nip to the bathroom. I'm going to have a break. I'll catch you in a sec.
What's important in the matchup, like practice obviously helps, but it's about not only like the micro interactions where the tactical scenarios, but also strategic things. Like, is this a matchup that you're planning to go long in, that it's about resources, or is it about tempo? And when you understand that, you'll be in a much better position to manage things. I think realizing also you're just playing Magic, even if, obviously your opponent has great taste just like you. They're playing the same deck. And obviously, you don't want to be playing against the same deck. You think it's the best deck for a reason. That's why you're playing it. But it's bound to happen. And, having a plan, having kind of one way that you're going to approach it, that's your plan. And you can hopefully find an edge there somehow.
Acknowledge differences for play and draw. Many people don't do that, and then there's an edge to be gained here.
Navigating an Oko mirror match is quite simple. Mulligan absolutely aggressively. Win your die roll, can't emphasize that enough, and try and get luckier than your opponent.
Well, to try to play the mirror like all the times that you need to learn the patterns and how to cyber. It's like it's one of the hardest matches to play sometimes, depending on the deck, of course.
My advice from a constructed mirror match perspective is really to, it's kind of a benefit that you have, that you can kind of have this shortcut into thinking through what does it feel like from the other side of the table. You have to kind of introspect a lot of times against a different matchup and not understand what they really care about, what matters. In the mirror match, you know what matters, you know what you care about. So think about denying the opponent those things that you find most precious when you're playing that deck, that sort of thing. So in some ways, it's actually can be a little bit easier. It's a little bit daunting at first. You think, oh, well, I'm going to have no one to blame but myself if I lose because it's a mirror match. On the other hand, I think you've got this natural location versus insight, given that you know how this deck operates, you know what the important moving pieces are, and you should know how to attack that strategy.
Hey, chap.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the news desk. Maria and Rich here hanging out with you.
Yeah, here we are.
We're very excited because we're getting closer and closer to our top 8 here in the tournament building. And,
Top 8. Love it.
Words fail me. You're not going to hear me say that very often. Of course, you wouldn't hear me say it because words would have failed me. But Javier Dominguez is up to 11-3.
It's on one hand entirely believable, and another completely unbelievable.
Right, and that's because no matter how good you are, stuff happens.
Right.
Brad Nelson, case in point. 9-0, the last perfect record in the building, just tweeted, heartbroken, 9-5.
Wow.
Cannot win this tournament. Gone.
9-5, like 9-0 to 9-5 is crazy.
Lost 3 out of his first 4 as well, to be 9-3. But he is still very much in the mix. Is still thoroughly alive. I believe he is up to
These decks are crazy.
well. He is 11-3 now. But Dominguez, you're looking at the reigning world champion, the Mythic champion from Long Beach. He is
It's insane.
far and away #1 in the MPL on points this season. Of course, that's related to having won these things. But nonetheless, he's just astonishing. And sitting there, we went on Tuesday to the testing house where he was there, absorbed into the redo Pantheon group, if you like, an ultimate guard. He was just sitting there laying out the rule and going, I think we can do this again, and working with Seth Manfield, and just he's so quiet, he's so impressive, he's such a fine human being. Again, we spent time in his home meeting his parents, and just a lovely family. And he seems to just meet everyone casually. It's not like, he's not really in the zone and I can't talk, I'm so busy. Just,
Except when he drafts, of course,
It's crazy, right?
That is true.
Absolutely crazy.
2 matches away from another top 8. Astonishing.
Well, somebody else who's having a very good day is Robert Smith, and he's on the floor with Tim Williams.
Great, like crazy individual.
Thank you, Maria. Yes, I'm here on the floor with Robert Smith, who has once again taken it down with his Simic Flash deck. It turns out that you don't need
Simic Flash is wicked. Like, Simic Flash is actually my sort of deck, and I don't know why I haven't built it yet, because I think it's epic. So let's listen to this.
Lots of people have chosen to go one way, and the fact that you've chosen to go this way means that you get to have a transformational sideboard. We just don't see them very often anymore.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. The fact that I'm playing Nissa in my Flash list, which a lot of people don't play, means that there's enough overlap between the Flash cards and the food cards that you have enough slots that you can do this transformational sideboard plan.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that once you've got Nissa in play, you can just threaten so much every single turn you pass with your mana up. As long as you've got cards in hand, this deck has quite a lot of the time, you can just do it all.
Yeah, I like Nissa a lot in Flash because just playing any Flash creature at the end of turn and then untapping and playing Nissa just creates a ton of pressure out of nowhere and can really swing board states. And the fact that she untaps a land means that you can often have a counter spell up as well.
I love Willabooby's jacket. Willabooby's jacket is amazing. I'm just stating that now.
A little bit closer, let's say, to being...
I need my chat. Where are you at, chat? Come on.
What are the matchups where you lean into that a little bit more?
So the number one thing is Edgewall Innkeeper. Edgewall Innkeeper is just awful for Flash decks because it's a 1-drop, you can't counter it, and then once it's in play, it doesn't matter whether you counter any of the other spells. So you really need Wicked Wolf there. Just in general, the food plan is extremely strong against aggressive decks, which are a weakness of Simic Flash. So it's like that. And then sometimes you go to that plan against food decks. It really depends on their exact list and how you think they're sideboarding. If they're sticking to the classic food plan of like playing big 6-drops to try and go over the top, then you still want the counter spells. But if after board they're dropping their expensive spells and bringing in a lot of like Veil of Summers and stuff like that, then you can actually fight them on the food axis.
Certainly nice to have options. And we've seen those options play out in various different ways. It's sad that we didn't get a chance to see slightly more from your deck when you're up against Andrew Cuneo, but quite frankly, his draws felt otherworldly in terms of what they could do. But there's a very good chance we're going to see some more of Robert Smith because, my goodness, he is still rocking and rolling here at Mythic Championship in Richmond.
Love it.
So, Maria, play a little game with me. I've got a question for you. How many times would you say that at a typical Mythic Championship, over the time you've been with us, a player has kind of sidled up to someone from coverage and said, I have got a great deck for you. I think it wins the tournament. It is just, it's special. I will let you see it, we can do a deck tech, but here's the thing. I really can't let the world see it until later in the tournament. How often would you say that happens?
Fairly unusual.
Okay, but pretty much at every Mythic Championship, somebody gives us that speech, right? Pretty.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. How often would you say the deck that they give us that's super secret and lives in the vault until the back end of Saturday is the real deal and just maybe going to go on to win the tournament?
Yeah, that is not...
Approximately never. Approximately never. This might be the approximately bit. Because Tommy
Totally
Ashton,
approximately.
Frank Carson's been in touch with a bunch of the field, all his contacts around the world. Tommy Ashton has the sacrifice deck. And I've been listening, Paul sitting there going, maybe it's real. Eduardo going, I believe this is going to be the tournament killer. And now we get to find out from Tommy Ashton just what this sacrifice deck, which maybe going to lift the title tomorrow.
I think this sacrifice deck is amazing. I think this is an amazing deck. Like, for me, this is for me this is Dreamworld. I love this deck.
Championship 6 with Tommy Ashton. Now, Tommy, you've been working away in the kitchen, my friend. You got a real spicy one for us here. It's not human food, however. You're playing Sultai cat food, Sultai sacrifice.
Yep, shoving them right in the oven.
That's it. Well, look, I mean, for female lovers around the world, maybe this isn't the deck for you. But I tell you what, we're going to get underway here and start off with a suite of cards that I think are pretty well represented
Yes,
this weekend.
the ubiquitous base.
We've seen, I mean, you don't have to tell us too much about these cards, but maybe talk to us about their specific role in this deck, because this is a little bit different, as we'll discuss.
Absolutely. Gilded Goose does a lot more here than usual, other than just the turn 2 Oko, in that the being able to sacrifice a food...
Hey, Rach. How you doing, my darling?
Very terrific.
Just trying to get everyone involved, you know. Well, you keep on saying you like this game and you want to get involved. So this is the Mythic Championships. This is the Mythic Championships for this. So I thought, you know, you might be able to understand it a little bit more. We can get the hype going again. So this is like the best of the best. Like the best of the best playing this game. It's so good. So good. What's the volumes like, Rach? Is it getting a bit reverby or what? It's echoey.
Making opposing things elk is going to come up a lot, but the making a food and always being able to have 1 or 2 or more food on the table ready to sacrifice.
What's that like now?
Is much more important in this deck than the Sultai Ramp deck.
All right, well, we've seen a lot of food this weekend, of course. We've all been very, very hungry, boys and girls. But you're doing something a little bit different with this food. We can move on to the next slide and have a look at the engine of this deck, which is very exciting. Now, Tommy,
good. No, please do that. Good.
Between Cold Familiar and Witch's Oven, a couple of other people are playing this, but you are playing a draft, a build-around archetype all-star, a solid 4-pick Trail of Crumbs. Talk to us about this card.
Well, it raised my eyebrows because it's similar to mechanics such as energy in that frequently any of the competitively costed cards that say the specific word on it, food, are something that should be explored, particularly ones that say whenever, because that is something that may be decent in draft when you activate it once a turn, but is particularly...
Can you hear me now?
...constructed if you're using it 4 or 5 or 6 times a turn.
But you're not getting reverb, hopefully.
In particular, it's something that if you're doing it that often, or if you have multiples of it, you will be able to speed through your deck, and they actually...
I don't think it is. I think I had my settings set wrong.
It finds more ovens, cats, correct, and more Trail of Crumbs.
Yeah.
So you will frequently, once you get to 2, you can go through your deck very rapidly.
What time is it in the States, hun?
Talk about here. We talk about, you know, constraints on these mechanics. We talk about the bottleneck. And here, obviously, Witch's Oven, you can only activate once per turn. It taps. But you talked about sacrificing food to Gilded Goose. You talk about activating Witch's Oven.
Hopefully you should get everything I'm saying.
There's no...
503. Okay, fucking wow. Okay, cool.
You must have a huge velocity here. This is an enormously value-oriented deck.
Gilded Goose being able to sacrifice and use that mana on the Trail of Crumbs trigger is something that happens as early as turn 2 and pretty much from then on each turn of the game.
So it's a different...
Excellent, sweet. And you can hear the background, you can hear the live from the Mythic fine as well.
You've got a bit of a support
Nothing's
card
too
as
loud.
well. I want to talk about that, backing up the Trail of Crumbs, backing up this engine between Cauldron Familiar and Witch's Oven. Of course, we've got to have some good, honest-to-goodness removal and interaction here. Noxious Grass.
I don't call that honest to be playing that, but yes.
It is definitely a concession to the format. We've seen Murderous Rider, we've seen...
Excellent, no, I'm really here. Yeah, sweet. Excellent stuff.
And her role in this list, because when we were chatting
About
about...
to do a chat reload, so hopefully that will stay okay.
Enormous utility.
Correct. It seems like there aren't very good... So removal spells can be interacted with by Veil or negated. Massacre Girl is something that can't be stopped by Veil, can't be stopped really by Grasp or Gust or anything like that. But
what have you been up to this evening, beautiful?
Guaranteed wrath of the board, frequently taking down multiple lands that have been activated. In particular because you are guaranteed with Cat to almost always have a 1/1 on the board to start.
You need to get that passport and come over.
In fact,
You really do. You need to sort that out.
And additionally,
Like, all you need to do is fly out of here, and you can stay for free. Like, if you tell me you're flying out, I can book the time for work, and I can show you the amazing part of the world I live in. Right? Sort your passport out, get your ass out here.
I hope that the numbers all line out, but you can kind of fudge those numbers a little bit with cards like Witch's Oven, whatever else. Murderous Rider also plays an important role with its bottom of the line.
Oh, that'd be cool. If I really hope you're moving that desk in there so you can stream, sweetheart.
That text is invisible.
Hopefully you're moving that in there so you can stream.
In this case,
and you need to let me know when you're streaming because I want to get involved big time. And if you're, it depends what you're doing. If you're like IRL, I'll totally drop in on IRL. If you're gaming, you know, I'll always try and get involved. So that's cool.
Sacrifice it to the bottom. Sacrifice a food, reveal it again, and keep going using those until they have no planeswalkers, no creatures, they have no artifacts because those would become elk, etc.
And this is the other thing about
that'd be cool. That'd be really cool. I really want to see you streaming again.
Like 100 bit in life anyway.
Really want to see you streaming again.
This is a deck that
100% support on that because it will be so good. Be good for you.
Super creative.
Really will.
Super sweet. So I mean, I know that you and a couple of your friends have been working on this list. Not all of them came to the tournament with it, but do you want to tell us a little bit about the brewing process?
Yes, absolutely. So it seemed like about a week ago, other people online on the Arena ladder or on Magic Online have been coming to similar conclusions. John Smith on Magic Online, I believe Crokies is a notable streamer who has
out of Glasgow.
Something similar. And I think people are recognizing how good Trail of Crumbs is.
Yeah.
And this was just using a team of, I got to lean on several Pro Tour winners and et cetera, to be able to take what was, I have this idea for an engine and figure out, okay, these are the non-engine cards that are good in it. These are the different angles that we hadn't seen before. And develop it.
Look, I'm very excited to see how it goes. We've got to cover off the lands, of course, very quickly. You said you were sort of playing a bit loosey-goosey with the mana base here, but one kind of want to ask about is Castle Loch Thwain. If you're already have this velocity, if you've already got Trail of Crumbs to burn through your library, is Castle
yeah, I mean, the one thing I can like tell you, like from me, I genuinely love streaming. I really enjoy it. I really love the interaction, but it's got to fit around your life because do you know what? If it doesn't fit around your life, if it doesn't feel easy and involved, it's really difficult. It's really difficult, so it needs to feel easy, it needs to feel natural, and it needs to just feel part of your day. Because if it doesn't feel natural, if it doesn't feel part of your day, it's difficult, it's hard. So yeah, go low. Like go low ball. So for me, I always go out and play Paper Magic Wednesday. I tend to go and see my girlfriend Friday and over the weekend. So hence why I broadcast that I stream Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Because that fits around my life. It's when I'm at home. It's when I'm chilling. It's when I have the time to do it. So, you know, go low. Don't go big. Go low. Go low with everything you've got to do. And then just enjoy it. Just literally enjoy it. Embrace it. And just soak it up. Just enjoy it, hun. Just enjoy it. So we're at 11-3, 11. So wow, Bustrovitz is massively ahead. Paolo is doing like the fact that Paolo is still up there is amazing. Dominguez is doing well. Who else is doing well? Trying to look for names now. Joshua Layton is doing pretty well. Wow. Like, in a world of, like, very similar decks, this is, like, wow. It just shows how much change there can be, even just with the same deck. I think that's amazing. Like, totally amazing. Like, Ari Lax, Gabriel Nassif, all of these amazing players. Martin User, you know, there's all of these epic players. You know, Ben Stark, like deck aficionado. You know, and you get back down the rank, and you got Cuneo. You know, you go back, like, Andrew Cuneo is amazing. Cuneo, Kowalski, De La Rosa, Dominguez. Like, there is amazing things, but there is no, like, Huey Jensen. There's none of these players to be seen, and, you know, it's phenomenal, really. It's absolutely phenomenal. It just shows that even when everyone thinks there's only one deck that you can play, there's only one way you can play it, no one knows. No one knows the meta, because you've just got to turn up, you've got to play well, you've got to outthink other people, and no one knows what will happen. So, you know, it's exciting. Like, in a world where everyone's kind of going, oh, you've just got to beat Oko and it's boring. No, you don't. You've not got to beat Oko. You've got to beat the 500 other people that think they know what's going on. And that just creates such an interesting dynamic. And that's what's showing it. Like, everyone whinging the Oko should be banned. Do you know what? Oko shouldn't be banned. You just need to find a way to play against Oko. You either play Oko, or what you do is you fight the meta. And that's what we've been doing on stream. We've been trying to fight the meta. We've been trying to find other ways in which you can play the game in standard but not play against Oko. So, be interesting.
Well, the big one, Rich. Austin Burcevic has won his round, advancing to 13-1, and we believe that is
has to be it.
For top 8.
That has to be it. Congratulations, Austin. You are not going to get 8 people above 13.
13-1 is vile.
King and Queen Maker now, potentially, as in the last
13-1 is amazing.
Right. Rocking that Sultai as well, which has been one of the talks of the tournament. Paulo Vitor Damaderosa losing to Louis Del Tour, Louis Del Tour advancing to 12-2. Paulo Vitor Damaderosa falls to 11-3.
Right, but all the 11-3s, we've been saying it all along, still the destiny is in their own hands. They win in 15 to get to 12-3. Then even if they have to play and there's no intentional draws in there, they play, they win again, they get to 13 wins. That is enough. So who else do we have on 11-3?
11-3, we also have Eli Cassis winning his round.
Right, so having gone 8-0 to 9-3.
What a sweat.
Roller coaster, back up to 11-3. So again, destiny's own hands. Boydia Munoz as well from Spain was 8th at Grand Prix Birmingham this year. First Olympic start for him, 22-year-old from Spain.
Wow.
Outstanding job for him. Sebastian Pozzo, the constructed master from 2016-17, he's 11-3.
All right, Andrew Cuneo, of course, losing to Burcevic, also on 11-3 right now.
Right, and we've already tagged this developing story of the world champion, Javier Dominguez, making it in. Now, earlier this week, Maria and I had a great chance to go out to an astonishing property which contained an astonishing group of players. It wasn't just Team Ultimate.
This is going to be so cool to see this.
Team KMC Genesis, as they were once or future known. It was also Seth Manfield, Javier Dominguez.
Wow.
By the time we counted them all up, turned out in one room there were 5 world champions.
Wow. This is going to be such a cool little short. Embrace this, guys, because I think this is going to be wicked.
Shahar Shenhar, 2013 and 2014.
Seth Manfield, 2015.
Brian Brown-Duin, 2016.
William Jensen, 2017.
Javier Dominguez, 2018.
So many good players. 5 world champions all.
World champion is very special compared to winning a different tournament because at least for a small period of time, you get to make the valid claim that you are the best in the world.
Something that means something even beyond the scope of Magic. Like, you can tell somebody who doesn't know anything about Magic, like, I'm a Magic World Championship champion, and that'll mean something to them.
If you achieve the world champion status, it's kind of with you for the rest of your life, right? There's only one in a given year, and so I look at it as the most prestigious event in Magic.
Winning the World Championship is definitely the hardest tournament you have every year. You have to get through all the best players in the world, and every match is definitely like, you know, a super hard match.
It's really tough. A lot of tournaments you're like, okay, I'll get a couple rounds where maybe there's like a breather, like a good matchup for me, or something like that, but that is just never going to be the case at the World Championship, where it's like, all right, I'm 0-3, but my opponent is like, you know, this Hall of Fame level player. It is really tough because you know you're never going to get anything for free.
If you're asking me, it's pretty easy to win the World Championship.
You piss taker. You absolute piss taker. Fucking love it. Love it, chat.
I thought I would win that specific iteration of it. Once I knew, I'm going to be just honest.
I love Huey. Like, Huey is a total hero to me. Like, yeah, absolute legend.
The World Championship that I won was the first World Championship
Totally.
that I played in. So I was just kind of looking not to embarrass myself. It really wasn't until a few rounds into the event where I was like, all right, I 3-0'd my drafts. Like, I'm in the running here. All right, I won again. Oh, oops, like I kept winning. Now I had set the expectations, like as you go through a tournament, the expectations can just change dramatically.
The first time I allowed myself to think that I might win this thing was in 2013 when I'm playing Reed Duke in the finals and he just mulliganed to 4. That is when I felt that I'm going to win. That was the first time I felt I was going to win. My hand was good and he's on a multi-4. It's game 5 in the finals.
I think the first time I allowed myself to think that was when I made the top 4 of the tournament. And once I was finally in that top 4 and I had the matchups laid out before me, I thought,
just so you're aware, they're wearing the headsets because there's a lot of commentary, there's a lot of talk going on around them. So it's to allow fair play.
Before that, I just like.
So that's the change you see between. It's just allowing fair play.
Every turn, every game, especially after like game 1, I think game 2, I made like a small mistake and I had to recover from that.
So the moment that I won the World Championships, if you haven't seen it, definitely was a rush of adrenaline, emotions. I was just like, this was everything I had been hoping for. Like, I'm at a loss for words. I wish I could go back and feel like how I did. Unfortunately, like, it's just like a once in a lifetime thing.
When I won that event, I was already kind of feeling it. My heart was beating super hard. During that entire multi-4 in game 5 in the finals, it was just so incredible. It's hard to explain and put into words, but it was just exhilarating. And my heart was beating really fast, and I can hear like people, even on the other side, just kind of like going like, "Oh my God, he's about to do it."
Shanghai.
The next year was a little bit different. I was
back to back.
Chapin, and the games were a little bit less close, and it was less of a sweat. It wasn't necessarily his play, but he was like unloosening his tie. I felt that I was going to win when that happened.
I know this is going to maybe sound a little bit bad, but I stood up and I was so relieved to have not lost. Like, I was so relieved to not have the story, the build up. At one point I was 12-0 in the tournament.
I love Huey so much. I've met him. I've got an amazing photo of Huey and Segrist and myself. Like, he's such a patron for this game and an amazing individual.
Oh, thank God I didn't lose.
The moment was Marcio was cracking his clue tokens, trying to find an answer to the board I had assembled. And I'm sitting here, and I can see him cracking each clue. And like each time he cracks a clue, I knew he didn't draw the answer. And my heart is just pounding because if he bricks, I win. And I can see the expression on his face, and I know that I've won. I just had this like feeling of like, wow, I can't believe it actually happened.
I actually don't have the memory of that exact moment. It was so intense that it just like, I've seen the camera like in the videos like a lot of times, but I don't exactly remember the moment because it was just such a.
That's amazing. Like I love seeing all this. $100,000, by the way, chat. 100. If you think these games are a joke, if you think this is a game for nerds, like, yeah, it may be a game for nerds, but that nerd just won $100,000 for being better than anyone else in the world on that day, and just just playing that game. And you know that what's amazing about this game is the fact that, do you know what, it's a little bit of chance, there's a little bit of gameplay, there's a little bit of knowledge, there's a little bit of respect, and it is an amazing game. It's an amazing game. It really is. It's a beautiful game, and that's why it's been around for this long, because it's a beautiful game.
All right, let's bring things back to what is going to become a very serious couple of hours here, because everything is well and truly on the line. And some more results that
So this is building up to the top 8 as well, by the way, chaps. This is the top 8 players that are going to play for the championships.
All right, so let's take a look at Andrei Strosky, 10-3-1.
Right, so he, of course, Czech Republic, top 4 of the Mythic Invitational, 3 Mythic Championship top 8s. He has a potential point score of 37. If he wins this next round, he goes to 34 and will likely play someone on 36 who would like to draw. He will say no and try and beat them and get to 37 and hope that's enough.
All right, we also have Elliot Bousseau, who is at 10-2-2, which is not a record I normally read out on the show.
Absolutely. 2 draws, and generally that's because your deck isn't that great and you're falling really behind the curve, and it's much more like 5-5-2 is the kind of record we see that. But here, 10-2-2, 30 points for the 10 wins, 2 points for the 2 draws. So he has a potential record of 38. But the same thing applies as for Strasky. He wins this next round, he gets to 35, nowhere near enough. Whoever he plays then paired up on 36, they'd like to draw. He goes, no way, 36 gets me in. I have to play you and beat you, go to 38, and trust that there aren't 8 39s. I think that's realistic. Bousseau is in prime position to go win, win, in.
Wow. All right. So we've also got Oscar Christensen sitting at 10-3-1.
So this is another Grand Prix winner, Gothenburg in 2013, Bousseau Prague 2015. So Christensen, 10-3-1, 34 if he wins round 15, plays again, likely paired up. Now, one of them might get paired down to a 33 and go, will you let me win? Can I be on 37? That's possible. But realistically, between those 3 in the next hour, we would expect at least one of those to advance. And that means that in the last round, that is going to really mess with the 36s who would like to not play Magic. I think they're going to have to. So that's where we are with that. So more on the leaderboard as that comes in, players gearing up for the next round. But we're going to take you back to the start, because our pro panel joined Maria here. We had Chris Vartek, who's a very recent addition to high-level Magic. We had Luis Scott Vargas, who basically came into real competitive Magic in the mid-2000s. And if you go back another decade, you get all the way to Raf Levy. Let's go back to the start.
This is mad.
Hey everybody, welcome back to our pro panel, and we're going to talk about kind of 3 different generations of Magic, if you will, and the start of some fabulous careers. We're going to start with you, Raf Levy. Tell me about when you started to first achieve success in Magic. It was the mid-90s. It was a whole different world back then.
Yeah, TV was black and white, no internet, like...
Uphill to school both ways in the snow, right?
Yeah, well, the TV was in color. There was no internet, or like, the internet was very limited. It was something people heard about. That's when it started. And yeah, I didn't even know internet existed. When I actually started playing Magic, that was in 94, 95. I was like 13, and that was just another game. I was playing chess, I was playing video games. It was just another game. And I started playing competitively about 2 or 3 years later, because, you know, I wanted to prove myself to, like, older people, maybe the 15, 17-year-olds. And I could show that I could play the game, and I was beating them. That was, like, really, that made me feel good. So, and then I played more tournaments, and I won more tournaments, and then I played...
His jacket is amazing. Like, that's an amazing jacket.
When I qualified for Worlds, I made top 4, and then I
like, you can say like nerds are nerds, like, and they don't have confidence. But do you know what? If you haven't got confidence, you can't wear that jacket. That's an amazing jacket.
What would you say is the biggest difference?
Throwing that out there. Amazing jacket.
Internet.
Really?
Like, I know that sounds, it might sound a little weird, because, you know, most people didn't know Magic before the internet. But back then, when you built a deck, that was your deck. No one else in the world had your deck. And you would go to a tournament, and people would read your card because they didn't know what they did. and they were like, oh, what is he trying to achieve with this deck? Is that combination even works? Does that even work? Oh, okay. And then you play something else. You play a card, and like, oh wow, you see that one coming. You never see that anymore.
Are you nostalgic for that? Do you miss those days?
I think these were exciting days for Magic. It's very different now. It's a different game, but that was something that was very exciting. Like bringing something new to the table.
Like that's a really interesting point though. It's like now, like you know all the decks that everyone's playing. Like back in the day, you never knew what anyone was going to do, and that's massively important.
Back then, and well, what was the scene like back then?
So it's kind of funny that Raph describes this because I did play Magic then.
My most favorite person in Magic of all time. Love LSV.
The dojo. I remember reading about Raph. Like I remember reading about those guys. And I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, I want to do this. I remember going to my first Pro Tour in 2004 and seeing like Kai, Marco, like walking down the street. And I was like, oh, those are like big shots. You know, I would love to play against them. And it's interesting having that evolve over the years, where now I'm on a testing team with Kai, and he yells at me about card choices or whatever, and I think he's wrong, and that's awesome. Who am I to say Kai is wrong? Except he was. But the biggest difference for me,
love it.
Next step of what Raph said, it's when I started playing, there was net decking. People knew what you were doing. You didn't play a card, and people were like, but people didn't have the same decks. There's a really wide range of what you could play against, and there was a much wider range of like the skill levels than there is now. Everyone's so good now. Yeah. You play against the person in this Pro Tour, they're gonna know what they're doing. They're not really gonna screw up. I mean, maybe they will sometimes, but the baseline play is like, you know, a 7 or 8 out of 10. It used to be that you could literally play against someone and they could be excellent or they could be really not excellent, and it's because the information was not so widespread. There really weren't articles. There weren't videos, certainly. There wasn't like these resources. Streaming didn't even exist yet, you know, and it's funny seeing the rise of technology and how it aids Magic over time. So definitely different world at the point.
And Chris, you're kind of a rising star right now, and you can win a tournament sitting at your home in your pajamas.
Yeah. It's interesting how they got so good without these tools, but I feel like just consuming content and playing a lot of Magic online, especially in college, it's a lot more convenient, is really how I was able to, I guess, build up my skill and get to the point that I am right now. Or even like spanning way back to like Scars of Mirrored and Limited. Like I love that format. Like I read all of LSV's limited set reviews and I was like Razor Hippogriff, like I gotta play that card, it's so good. I don't know, just it's very impressive, and I can't really conceive Magic without the idea of internet involvement, and I don't know, it's how I really learned everything, honestly.
This is so.
That's so genuine, though.
Great look at Magic back through the years and how people.
If you want to listen to really genuine set review and understand how cards are played, like go and watch Limited Resources, Marshall Sutcliffe's and Lewis Scott Vargas podcast. You can get it on Spotify and various other places, but it's amazing.
All right, let's see that leaderboard. Austin Bursavich is firmly in first place, sitting at 13-1. There it is, Louis Deltour, 12-2, right on his heels in second place. Eli Cassis, 11-3.
Cunio's there though. Wow.
Shane, followed closely by
And Domodorosa's there as well, and Domodorosa is scary.
From the MPL as well. Paulo Vitor Domodorosa in the mix at 11-3, all the way down to Javier Dominguez from the MPL in 11-3, and Sebastian Pazzo, former Constructed Master.
And then we have our 3 players that we've just highlighted on the assorted amounts of draws. Busso in 12, Christensen 13, Stransky 14. By our reckoning, there are a maximum, because we're not quite sure about the 3 players with draws, a maximum of 14 players who still control their own fate here in this
Amazing.
tournament. But you know what? Depending how pairings pan out over the next couple of hours, some of those 10-4s who are in tie-break order might be in the mix.
I'm feeling the sleepy so much.
This round is 4 matches, all at 11-3. You know if you lose, you're basically done. You know if you win, you're in the shake-up. It is time for the best hour of Magic at every Mythic.
This is going to be so good.
The penultimate round of Mythic Championship.
This is going to be so good. It's going to be so tense. Guys, if you're not psyched, like, wow. Like, this is like winning in. This is so involved. This is why I love Magic, you know. It's not chess. It's not like best player wins. There's a bit of chance. Amazing.
Championship 6. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. That's Paul Cheon, and as Rich just said, this is where things get hot and heavy. This is where if you lose, You're not going to be eyeing that top 8 in any realistic scenario. Now, look, a good finish is a good finish, and you know you can still take home a nice cash and a good finish. But at this point in the tournament, these players are absolutely focused in on trying to get to that top 8 slot. And in our feature match area, everybody is sitting at 11 wins, 3 losses, which means they need to keep winning to keep that top 8 dream alive.
Absolutely. Very, very important.
Here we go.
Win number 12. That's kind of the magic number, especially
Here we
with
go.
a 12-3 record. If you can pick up that draw in the last round, typically 37 points is what it takes to make it into the top 8. Now, of course, there are some wrinkles. There are some players sitting with a draw, and if you are X3 and you play against somebody who has 3 losses and a draw, you might not be able to get that draw. But, of course, the most important thing here is to win this match.
Well, this match is
So we got
Sebastian
some
Paso
food.
from
We got
Argentina
some
playing
cauldron.
Food, again, 11-3, versus Borja Munoz from Spain.
Oh god, he's playing everything back to front. That's messing with my brain so much. All his cards are upside down. What is going on, chat?
But significantly different builds here, you know, or I shouldn't say builds, I should say approaches to the format from these two players.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Borja with, we've seen various 4-color versions.
So he's
and even
picked out
different
Krasis.
Flavors of 3-color versions of the Sacrifice deck. And Borja actually just choosing to go straight Jund. We've seen players choose to play Oko and Splash Blue. And we've seen some Sacrifice decks that are simply just Sultai. So really interesting to see how this turns out for him. You know, the really kind of new, awesome, interesting card that I want to see in action is the 3 copies of Corvold Fey Curse King that he has in his deck. We got a little bit of an opportunity to see it in action yesterday, and let's see if we can see it here as well.
Wow, that like Sebastian's had has had a really good start.
Turns out it's legal and standard, and some people are like, hey, I can make that thing work.
Interesting.
Very powerful.
No oven in hand for Borja.
Munoz does have one in hand here, so it's certainly not impossible. Right now, though, Cauldron Familiar all by its lonesome doesn't really do a whole lot. You do need the Witch's Oven to kind of make that thing
Yeah, you
work.
definitely need the oven.
In the meantime, on the other side of the battlefield, Sebastian Pazzo patiently moving his mana.
He's got a Krasis in hand. Looks like quite a lot of mana. He's got like quite a lot of land. He's got 2 land in his left-hand hand. He's got a Krasis.
Yeah, he's got a
another land. He's got something else which I can't work out.
Until he at least has access to 6 mana.
Over Tomb Stomping Ground. There you go. Swamp.
That additional card.
Say if I'm in Munoz's seat, I'm feeling relief because that's Nissa turn. That's, you know, Oko plus Protect It, whatever. There's a lot of things that could have gone down there, and Munoz seems to have dodged that bullet temporarily. He's going to attack in with both creatures. The Midnight Reaper gets through. Cauldron Familiar was, I guess, just a bluff there, but Sebastian's like, sure, I'll throw the goose in front of it. On end step. And by the way, no play there from
That's an Ether Gust by the looks of it.
On end step, a food gets made by the Gilded Goose.
So this seems like the opportunity here. Sebastian doesn't have a whole lot of other action in hand. So run out of Hydro Krasis, turn it into a 4/4, draw some cards, gain some
4/4, draw 2.
And now this is also the turn that Borja has to kind of unleash whatever threats that he might have been sandbagging to play around the Ether Gust, because he knows that Sebastian is on the Simic version, which is slightly more tempo oriented.
Corvold is very good.
The removal spells in Noxious Grasp, you have Ether Gust, and also instead of some of the top end threats that we've seen, he's playing 4 copies of Brazen Borrower. There you can see on the screen, Corvold, Fey Curse King.
Wow, taps out.
4/4 flyer. When you sacrifice a permanent, put a
Corvold, straight in.
draw a card.
Oil.
If you can
Flexing. So when Corvold Fey Curse King enters the battlefield or attacks, you sacrifice a permanent, and then they've changed it because they're a pain in the ass.
Enters the battlefield, you have to sacrifice another permanent, so you do get that.
They sacrificed the Cauldron Familiar there.
With that Midnight Reaper in play, he's able to draw 2 cards off the Corvold.
It's like play it, sack, draw 2. It's quite good.
And he's really put himself in a good position late in the day. Just 2 rounds left, one after this one. And if he can just hang on with his Jund Sacrifice deck, we could see him in the top 8. But he is facing an experienced professional player in Sebastian Pazzo and somebody who's
What's that,
taking
Aether Gust?
the best deck in the format.
Yeah, and Sebastian has no shortage of interaction here. He's going to cast Aether Gust here on Corvold, and that has 2 additional Aether Gusts here. If Borea just spends the next couple of turns just continuing to try to run out the Corvold, I mean, this Hydra Krasis can actually end the game fairly quickly.
And look at that. Munoz is going to see through that plan and put Corvold on the bottom of the library.
Interesting. Okay.
He's recognized. I
Nice.
need to do multiple things a turn going forward here.
Yeah,
If I'm back
interesting.
in this, I am behind.
He's read into that.
The Hydra Krasis by a fair bit here. So down to 12 he goes, and then Pazzo passes the turn back to Munoz. He draws his card for the turn, and it's another Mayhem Devil. He's a little flooded on those in hand. He's got at least 2 now, as well as an Angrath's Rampage. But the little mana creatures.
How you doing, Rachel Rose Fox Medallion?
they're worth getting
You
with a
sleeping?
Rampage. It's not like it's bad, but the real issue here is his Krasis.
Yeah, part of the reason why Angrath's Rampage is so powerful is just the fact that it can get Planeswalkers, right? The ability to target your opponent and have them sacrifice a Planeswalker means you're very likely going to get a Noko. And of course, that also works very well with a card like the Mayhem Devil because it triggers off of anybody sacrificing a permanent.
It looks like a Trail of Crumbs here from Munoz.
And Sebastian can choose to Aether Gust this. And if he does, he will prevent the enter the battlefield effect of creating a food. So if you did want to bounce it in some way, Aether Gust makes the most sense here instead of letting it resolve and then choosing to bounce it later.
So that's
He's
gonna
got. It looks
resolve
like he's got a couple of Dovins in hand.
on the Trail of Crumbs, and then Munoz.
He's got like 3 Angrath's Rampage in hand. That's ridiculous. 3 Angrath's Rampage. What the actual? Wow.
Yeah, this is tricky.
Oh wow, so you've got your desk in your room, Rage.
Deciding
You've
how
done it
he's
already.
gonna
Check
end
you
the
out.
Trail
I'm
of Crumbs is
brutalizing it. Well done,
try
hun.
to look through a deck, but he also
Does it
needs
look
to
good?
find answers to that Hydra
I expect
Krasis.
pictures.
Wow, he's really stuck in the tank here on this one, and yeah, he does decide ultimately.
Yeah,
to
and
keep
I
it on
expect
top of
pictures of
the
the
line. It
desk.
looked like a pretty close decision for
This is
him.
gonna be your new stream setup for when you like literally smash on with the streaming again. That's what's happening. Okay.
If it were to die, he
You and I both know you're gonna start. You know, you're gonna smash out the streaming. Just the way forwards, yeah.
But as it stands, Pazzo's not going to play ball, so it.
We need to get everyone in here. We need to get like all the boys and girls in here, smashing out the chat whilst we're doing this random late night stream.
Sebastian does have a couple of options. It looks like he has a third now, or given that he has a Brazen Borrower, just choose to use that at the end of turn.
We're on like states time here, so like I'm totally the minority. You guys need to be supporting me. Like, I'm sleepy.
So he's instead going to use Aether Gust number 3 on it, and Munoz must be looking at this like, geez. No wonder you have all those cards in your hand and you haven't been deploying them.
Right.
He's going to play a land and pass the turn back over to Pazzo.
Yeah, and Pazzo has Borea in it on a 2-turn clock here. There's a Krasis and a Paradise Druid, and he has an additional bounce spell in the Brazen Borrower. It looks like he found another Brazen Borrower here.
Brazen Borrower is
Brazen
good.
Borrowers, 2
Brazen Borrower
flying
makes
threats
life
here
so
that Borea
difficult.
needs to deal with on top of the Hydra Krasis.
Because you can just hold on to it, you can wait for people to play their mana and then just brutalize them. Brazen Borrower is a good card.
For 6 damage here, knocking Munoz down to 6, and then
Seriously think about playing the Brazen Borrower in my artifacts only deck.
thanks to the power there.
Just 'cause it's such a controlling card.
Attack you for 6, down to 6 goes Munoz. Pass the turn back. Also keep in mind that the 2 food tokens there from Pazzo can help buoy his life total in case Munoz did come up with some way to apply real pressure. So Sebastian Pazzo looking to be in a very good position here.
Yeah, Pozzo's doing really well. Borja's struggling.
Munoz, I mean,
He needs to find the
doesn't really
right
have a whole
cards
lot
now
of time
and
here, right?
really,
He can
really
run out
quick.
Trail of Crumbs, but that's going to tax his mana. He's going to make a food, sack a food. You want to get the value from the Trail of Crumbs, so that's going to cost him 5 mana just to gain 3 life and maybe look for a card on top.
And here it comes again. There's Trail of Crumbs. When it enters the battlefield, you do get a food token, and Munoz picks that up here.
It's probably going to run out this Mayhem Devil and hope it resolves, and it likely will, given that we've now gone through 3 copies of Aether Gust.
That's right.
One thing Sebastian can do is bounce the food in response. and force Boria
Yeah,
to use
so
the food.
obviously food can't come back to your hand, so because it's a token, it doesn't come back to your hand, it just disappears, it just dissolves.
Oh, and it counters the Brazen Borrower.
That's right. So I think Pozzo missed that interaction. I think he may have forgotten about the Cauldron Familiar in the yard. And I wouldn't call this a disaster, but it certainly isn't the way that Pozzo had it lined up when he used Petty Theft there.
Yeah, so basically what happened there is obviously the Cauldron Familiar was in the yard, so the spell was pointed at the food to basically get rid of it, and then in response to that trigger going on the stack, the food was then sacrificed to then put the Cauldron Familiar back in. That makes a big difference. You're covered in dust. Is that because the desk was covered in dust, I assume, Rach? I assume that's what happened.
And he can attack for 7 in the air, right?
I'm really excited to see what your stream setup looks like. Like, really excited.
You actually, this is all in Spanish, kind of.
Like, really need to see what's going on with the stream setup. We need to do a joint stream at some point. Maybe I need to get you playing Magic. Maybe that's what it is.
I'm not sure what they're.
But any other games, like we need to do some joint games for sure. You're like my mod extraordinaire. Like, you know, mod across all my platforms. We need to do a joint stream. Like, that needs to happen for sure.
Something right away, and if something happens after
Name the game.
then it's usually considered a target something specific.
I believe the bounce was in response to the Mayhem Devil. So the Mayhem Devil was on the stack.
Okay.
And then Sebastian tried to bounce the food token in response, so that the Mayhem Devil wouldn't deal 1 damage to any of his creatures.
Okay.
And Boria then responded by sacrificing the food to put the Cauldron Familiar in play to fizzle the Brazen Borrower.
Okay.
But of course, Sebastian has another Brazen Borrower, and that's a lethal attack.
Right.
Wow.
Okay. And so they were just getting the timing worked out on that to make sure that there wasn't a trigger to be thrown around. But as
Yeah,
you just mentioned,
there's
Paul,
lots of triggers on the stack there. It's just the way that all the triggers layered.
The second Brazen Borrower there for Sebastian Pozzo was enough to put lethal on the battlefield, and that is game.
That's such a nice trophy, right?
Ooh, baby.
Beautiful
And, you know,
trophy.
This is one of those instances, right, where choosing to play Simic over Sultai really worked out in Pozzo's favor because he was able to Ether Gust Mayhem Devil, right?
You're right.
Noxious Grasp, unable to deal with the Mayhem Devil in any way, shape, or form. So by being able to
Yeah, it does definitely need to happen, Rach. What games are we going to play then? What do you play? What do you play? I don't ever get enough chance to watch your streams. Like, I really don't. What games are we going to play? We can just do an IRL like stream and just like chat and talk nonsense. And then what we can do it away, so we put both of our cams on both of our streams, and just like chat. Maybe we'll like I think we could do like a reaction video to something that we both have something in common with. To do a load of reaction videos to stuff that we love. If I remember correctly, aren't you? Are you a bit of an anime fan as well? Can we do like an anime reaction video?
Coming into this tournament, a lot of people also chose to play
My setup right now, just a desk till I can get my desktop looked at. We can get that sorted. That's fine. We can sort that out. That's no problem.
A short break here.
Easy peasy.
When we come back from that, we'll be right back down into the feature match area with all the live action here in our penultimate round for Mythic Championship 6. Don't go anywhere.
I'm here on the floor of Mythic Championship 6 with a man who's having a pretty good weekend already, even though not a single card has been played, because Reed Duke is becoming a member of the Hall of Fame this very evening. But there's going to be plenty of talk about that for the rest of the weekend, I'm sure, anyway. I want to talk to you about this season, because you've been having quite the season just this last year.
Yeah, it's been good.
I love Reed. He's brilliant.
I'm pretty excited for the future of Magic. Getting to be part of the inaugural Magic Pro League is awesome in its own right, and you know I've been fortunate enough to float part of the way to the top among that really talented crowd. So yeah, definitely can't complain.
Now, Worlds is coming up, and you're in prime position to be able to lock up a spot for Worlds, potentially at this event. How important is that in the sort of the overall scheme of your planning for the event? Are you shooting for the stars on this one to lock it up, or are you just like, let's be solid and make sure we continue with the good results?
Well, it's almost the situation where the pressure's the greatest, right? Because a lot of times you show up at the Magic tournament and there's 400 or 500 players, and you're going, well, maybe
I've had far too much to drink, chat.
And I can
Struggling.
something great. But when you actually have your position in the standing that you're trying to protect, it's almost like don't blow it. So it looks as though to make the World Championships, I'm going to need a good finish in either Mythic Championship 6 or 7. So it would really, really be great in terms of my standing and my season if I could have a good finish this weekend.
Now, in terms of testing, obviously, we've got a standard format that, to greater or less extent, has been around for a little while now. How has the balance of your testing been between that and Throne of Eldraine Limited?
Good question. We also had Mythic Championship 5, which came just a couple of weeks before this. And while there was a major banning between then and now, I played the Simic Gilded Goose Oko deck at that event. So that's sort of the framework of this standard format. So I feel like I have a pretty good base. Practiced a lot from home, and then by the time I showed up to practice with my teammates, it was almost time to, let's get some house drafts, some booster drafts against other tough players and iron that out.
Just about the toughest drafts that you'll find pretty much anywhere, Mythic Championship included, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing some drafts from home on Arena and Magic Online, and I was like, man, I nailed it. I'm killing it. I'm winning every time. And then I showed up to the testing house, and I was like a below 50-50 player among that crowd. So it goes to show you that, there's some work to do, and the Pro Tour is never going to be easy.
Well, we're going to get a chance to find out exactly how easy or hard it is for Reed Duke this weekend soon enough.
The boys are
Best of luck
smashing
to you
out.
here. Mythic Championship 6, Reed Duke.
Love Reed. Reed's brilliant, and a really worthy, really worthy Hall of Fame. Really worthy Hall of Famer.
And we're right down the stretch.
We're like 100% of the vote, basically.
Underway. This is where our top 8 is really starting to come into focus, at least for some players. And, in our feature match area, we've got, well, all 8 of them are sitting with an 11-3 record, which with the
I do like Cuneo.
Means a loss is, well, you're certainly not guaranteed, and probably looking out of the top 8 contention with a win to put you right in the mix the next round to maybe get a draw, maybe fight it out and see if you can't make it in yourself. We've got kind of an interesting matchup here. We have Max Mick, a relative newcomer to the high-level Magic scene.
That's Eli Cassis, I believe, against Javier Dominguez.
You are right.
Rach, you've left me.
Good eye, Paul.
I was like, Max Mick is playing Simic.
Yeah, so there's another good thing there. Yeah, you're right. So that's the champ there on the right. That's Javier Dominguez. And Eli Cassis on the left-hand side. We've been watching Eli play quite a bit over the course of the weekend.
And what a run Javier's been having.
I have been watching him play a lot over the past year or two.
If he somehow wins this event, I mean, come on. World champion, winner of Mythic Championship 5, and also in the mix for top 8 for Mythic Championship 6.
Well, that overhead shot was Max Mick and Andrew Cuneo, so maybe we'll get a chance to check on them. But our main
These guys, they put so much work into the filming for Magic now. That's such a beautiful shot. Like, what an amazing shot. Like, swooped from one table to the other. I'm sorry. Like, I'm literally nerding out on the shooting of this tournament at the moment because it looks beautiful. Beautiful shots.
Really made a good name for himself.
Yeah, was the constructed master.
Pardon me.
Not too long ago.
Okay, here's a big one. Witch's Oven. We didn't get a chance to see that much before. And this can absolutely turbo out some of the synergies that Munoz's list has.
But Sebastian with the classic 1-2 punch here. Turn 1 Gilded Goose, turn 2 Oko. We've seen a lot of this. And extremely powerful spirit.
That shot where they arch over the top is such a nice addition. Looks so pretty.
See if Munoz perhaps has something
such a pretty shot.
That he could use to help.
Munoz actually with not as much interaction. Oh no, he does. He's got 4 copies. They're all in the main. He's got the 4 copies of Noxious Grasp, along with 2 copies of.
Oh, that's cool.
So he has 6.
You can see what he's got in his hand. Oh, this is cool. Do you hover here? And he's got Forest, Midnight Reaper, Varaska. That's very cool.
Though there is good news here. There's an Angrass
Varaska girl.
right now. And
this is nice. I do like the ability
And
These
I gotta
guys
say,
have done
that
this.
exchange,
That's really nice.
Not bad at all. Sure, there's a food left behind, and that does matter. Make no mistake. But he needed to use the food to get it onto the battlefield. It's about as good as you're going to get.
Nice.
Meanwhile, Sebastian with a completely loaded hand here. He has a backup Oko here if he wants. That he's likely going to run out here because he probably wants to play out a Wicked Wolf with a food in play to protect it and also just a creature to kill. So Oko makes a lot of sense here. Perhaps just making an additional food here because it might be pretty difficult for Munoz to deal with a Wicked Wolf. We saw how much trouble Eli Cassis had. Traditional just black removal just doesn't answer Wicked Wolf if you haven't.
Oko's brutal though. Like, play it for 3, tick it up to 6 is disgusting. Like, it's a really horrifically hard card to play against.
Queen at the ready. He does.
All right, so he has back-to-back answers for the Oko.
It's now play Vraska, destroy the Oko.
And if Sebastian doesn't have
Brutal card.
a Nissa or Oko number 3, that Vraska likely will stay in play for a turn.
Again, Munoz doing a good job here. He has managed to answer both copies of Oko the turn after the battle. And, you know, if you can keep doing that, he might be able to hang in this game.
And at this point, given that Vraska is in play, I think he probably just wants to run out of Wicked
Currently,
Wolf here.
if you want to
No
know
targets,
as
he
well,
has
I
a
know
backup
people are
Wicked
quite
Wolf
into their vaping
and
this day and
Hydra
age.
too.
So
And
I'm currently
very, very difficult
vaping
for
hazelnut
Munoz
cookie.
to kill an active Wicked Wolf. He would need 2
Blue
removal spells.
hazelnut
First,
cookie
kill the,
is what I'm
the
currently
gilded
vaping.
goose, and then maybe have some kind of sacrifice effect to get the Wicked Wolf off the battlefield.
Yeah, Angrath's Rampage is a way that you can do that, but it's going to start slipping away here because we see Voracious Hydra hit the battlefield for Pozzo. It's a 4/5. Not bad.
The Witch's Oven not doing a whole lot right now. The Voracious Hydra is nice in the fact that it does have Trample, and Sebastian still has a way to protect the Hydra from a spot removal spell because he does have that Veil of Summer in hand. In fact, both players with the Veil of Summer in hand.
Midnight Reaper.
The question is he going to choose to sacrifice a permanent?
No, he's just going to plus and pass. He wants to keep the Witch's Oven and all of his lands and certainly the Midnight Reaper intact. Wow, another Voracious Hydra to complement the 2 copies of Wicked Wolf in hand plus Veil of Summer for Pozzo. Boy, that's going to be a tough hand to beat.
This is difficult.
Especially considering that he's already
Like,
had
Pozzo is looking so on top
And
right now.
The nice part about Wicked
This is
Wolf as a
looking
removal
great.
source instead of, you know, cards
Like,
Noxious Grasp. And even
Borgia
Power,
is
the
going
fact
to
that it's
find it
meaning that
really
if your
hard to
opponent
come
has
back
Veil
from
of
here.
Summer, it can fight through that. Veil of Summer only gives your creatures hexproof from blue and black spells.
It'll look really
Wicked Wolf
difficult from
comes
here.
down, knocks out the Midnight Reaper, clears the way for the Voracious Hydra, and all of a sudden Munoz is back to almost square one here. He loses to Vraska. He's got a food and a Witch's Oven.
Yeah, and I mean, this is just also just the power of the food deck, right? Sure, you dealt with some of the planeswalkers, but look, the Oko still created food, and Sebastian still has lots of useful ways to use that food. He's got that Wicked Wolf, and he's still putting a lot of pressure here.
All right, here's Corvold, though.
Corvold's
hits
good,
the
but I don't know what it does
now
him with here.
5/5 with flying. Also,
So he's
sacrificed- it looks like
sacrificed the food,
but
put a
not
1/1
for
counter on
life.
it, so he's now a
Still
5/5.
sacrificed to Corvold and to get that card as well. So
So he
kind of
outranks the Hydra.
right scenario because he's kind of hanging on to it. But I tell you, if Corvold can stick around, it might actually be good enough.
Yeah, and
yeah, it might be.
he's
Yeah,
tapped
I
out
agree.
now, so if Sebastian did have a bat spell, it would have been huge here.
Yep.
Or perhaps Oko number 3. So he had a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different ways to potentially interact, but couldn't find one.
Now you mentioned before though that.
I like the idea of play and see what you've got.
That opens up the
This is good. And he's left up mana for Ether Gust as well. So he's potentially signaling Ether Gust or something like that.
Also a Massacre Girl, a Veil of Summer, a Stomping Ground.
Yeah, so if he plays out a Massacre Girl, he will be able to get a mini chain going, but it would only actually kill 2 creatures. He would be able to get the Paradise Trooper, which would then trigger the Massacre Girl again and get the Gilded Goose off the table. But that Wicked Wolf is a 4/4, the Voracious Hydra is a 5/5, and Sebastian can even pump the Wicked Wolf into potentially a 6/6 because he has a Gilded Goose activation available.
Yeah, he did. He can respond to it on the stack, basically. I think that's what he's doing.
But he's decided it's worth it, so there's Massacre Girl.
Hey, welcome back, Rach. Welcome back,
Could he further the chain by using...
How's the desk going?
Anyway, no, it's still 4 toughness, 5 toughness, 1 toughness, 2 toughness, and then his own creature.
Yeah, it looks like Sebastian is just making a food here in response, and we're going to see some triggers here.
Yeah, you said only 2 creatures, but that's still 2 creatures, and none of them were on Munoz's side, so he can live with it, I guess.
Oh, wow.
So it looks like he's going to activate Corvold here, sacrificing a forest.
And he's going to get in for, so it's everything's -3/-3, so he's probably going to get in for 3
Oh, the
damage
desk
here.
looks amazing. Desk looks amazing, Rach. No, it looks really good. I like it a lot. I really like it. Really like it. Yeah. When you get your rig set back up, that's going to be amazing. It's going to be an amazing little setup.
Not exactly
really
where you
is.
want it to be. It's a 4/4,
Amazing
but
little
it's
setup.
facing up against a 4/5 Voracious Hydra.
But you can still stream with your laptop, you know. Just go local. Just go chill. Just go IRL stuff. It'd be cool. Just get back into it. Get back in the zone. No, the desk looks amazing. The setup is going to be awesome. Like it really will.
I feel like he's in a good position given the contents of his hand as well, Paul. He is looking very nice here with another Voracious Hydra.
God, I've had so much to drink, Rach. It's not good.
To fend off a potential removal spell, the Veil of Summer as well.
No, but it depends what you're streaming. If you're just streaming you and not games, it will handle it fine. It really will. It must do. It'll be fine.
And then sacrifice to make a food.
As long as it's a marginally up-to-date thing, it'll be awesome.
Oh, and this means that Sebastian actually doesn't sacrifice a food. And because Massacre Girl had 4 power, you get 2 food off the Witch's Oven.
That's right.
Corvold continues to grow.
You have enough space on it for OBS. Really?
So that is
oh wow, okay, that makes it quite difficult.
Corvold, so
why don't you, it depends. I mean, you've obviously got to wait for your rig to come back, but like a cheap external hard drive, it might be the way to go.
The thing Sebastian just needs to be careful of is that Corvold
Cheap
somehow
external
just
hard
gonna
drive
kill
could
me
be
in one
good.
shot? Is he just going to attack and just get me? And Sebastian just trying to set up here for a big lethal attack next turn. That's 12 power.
It's actually really quite nice just like chilling here with everyone as well. Not playing games, just like chilling and watching stuff. I do quite like that, just chatting with chat.
He can buffer his life total up to 13, but at a steep cost of most of his
2 seconds, I'm just going to go and feed my fish actually. 2 seconds, guys.
He finds a Gilded Goose, and he also had drawn another Witch's Oven as well.
And Sebastian Pozzo took 2 damage there and let the Breeding Pool untap. So Boria has to be mindful of that. Has to be mindful that Sebastian probably has a Veil of Summer. So while Boria does have Noxious Grasp in hand, he has to think it's pretty unlikely for it to actually be good here. Still, it's got to be scary if you're on Pozzo's side and your opponent's just doing math with their fingers on the table. Like, okay, They got a Corvold in play. We know this thing does a lot of stuff.
Like, literally nursed my big fish back to health.
Mayhem Devil here.
Like, literally nursed my big fish back to health. On so many levels.
Looks like it.
Okay, and he does have a Witch's Oven with another one in hand. There's definitely things that can happen.
Yeah, he doesn't have a Cauldron Familiar in the graveyard, so he can't just sack all the food at will to get a bunch of triggers, which would be very nice with the Corvold.
No, do it. Rach, seriously, I'm so excited for you to start back streaming, darling. Like, you know, to me, like, all of this has always been about a community. Like, you know, you've been in my streams.
Okay, so this is actually really interesting.
For, like, the last, my God, how long? Like, you and me now have been a little mini partnership for so long. You've been one of my mods for ages. Like, you've been one of my mods for a really long time now. And I can totally guarantee that I'll be there to support you in exactly the same way that you've supported me. You know, you and I have both been through lots of stuff. I now not necessarily enjoy, but I do know I own my stuff. I've been through lots of things. Just recently, I don't ever mind talking about my mental health issues. It's something I always try and support other people through. And I've struggled with my mental health massively. I'm a qualified mental health first aider, and it's something I don't take for granted at all. And I always try and support other people. So, you know, one thing you can guarantee at that one point where you start streaming, that one thing that you love, I will be there to support you. Because I know you love it. I know it's a really positive thing for you. And it's a really positive thing for something you enjoy, and I'll be there to support you through that because I know it's important, and it's important to you, I know it's important to something that you love, and I want to be there with you through that. So I'm really excited for you to start streaming again. Really, really excited for that, and I really genuinely mean that. I genuinely mean that. I'm really excited for that to happen. So bring it on.
I wonder if there's something specific
Bring it on.
that he could find.
Does he want an untapped land just to be able to draw a card off the food?
Yeah, maybe. Or the life. I think he found it too. He does get in for 1 additional damage thanks to that play. Yeah, he found a swamp. Putting him at effectively 10 life.
Now, does he save more damage if he just uses Noxious Grasp here?
Yeah, he does.
But, of course, if
I
Octo
totally
has
agree,
another Veil of
Rach.
Summer,
Mental
that leaves him
health
very exposed.
should be spoken about a lot more often. Yeah, big
And
time.
yes, Sebastian has another Wicked Wolf, so you can
I'm
use
actually
the
going to turn down the stream a little bit.
try to eat the Mayhem Devil, and he has Veil of Summer here for a potential Noxious Grasp.
No, I think mental health should be spoken about a lot more, and I think people that have, I don't even want to say people that have been there. If you've had issues with your mental health, that's not something that ever disappears. It's something that you learn to cope with. It's something you learn to recognize, and it's something that you you come to terms with. You'll always have your mental health, and people deal with it in different ways. You really do deal with it in different ways, and that doesn't necessarily, you don't ever get rid of it. Just because you feel better on one day compared to another, it doesn't mean you're cured of your mental health. It just really makes you realize that you've learned to deal with it in a different way. And for me, I've learned that I will never ever shy away from having a conversation with anyone about that, because it's just not the way it should be. Just not the way it should be. I really want everyone to feel like they can own their own mental health issues. I feel like I want people to be able to talk about it. because talking about it is half the battle. It's half the battle. So yes, totally agree with you. In my opinion, also, everyone should be able to talk about their mental health. They should not feel oppressed by anyone else to be able to talk about it. It should not carry any stigma. Everyone should be able to talk about it, because at the end of the day, it's positive. As a scary, worrying thing that mental health can be, it's a positive thing to be able to talk about it with other people. And it's an incredibly positive thing to be able to talk about it with other people that have had their own issues with their own mental health. And I couldn't agree more. I will always sit here and I will always support anyone that wants to talk to me about their mental health. It's something I am extremely passionate about, and I will quite happily sit here, air my own trials and tributes with my own mental health, with the modicum of chance that it might help someone else to understand, or at least perchance to understand and look at their own mental health in a different way. So thank you, Rach, thank you very much for saying that, because it's something I'm extremely passionate about. I've actually got the Instagram account men, M-E-N, Tull Health, because men notoriously difficult about talking about mental health. They suffer massively because blokes don't talk about things that make them sad, and I think they do. So I don't know what I'm doing with that Instagram account yet, but I don't know. I need to, and I really want to do something really positive with it. And that's something that's really important to me. I just don't want to jump in. I don't want to jump in. I want to do the right thing with that account. So yeah.
But he's playing the deck that he really enjoys to play. There's a lot you can say about that.
All right, well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, I think all men should be incredibly humbled. I think all men should be incredibly humbled about women's, and it's incredibly stereotypical, but it is incredibly true. I think all men should be incredibly humbled about women's women's ability to speak with their friends about things that hurt them, and things that make them sad, and things that have an issue in their life. Women are incredibly good, from what I understand, at talking to one another about these things, and men don't. And men don't, because they live with their, excuse my language, dick on their sleeve. It's literally like a big dick competition about who. Oh yeah, I can't talk about that because I'm a geezer. I'm a dude. Like, no, you're not. You're not a geezer. You're not a dude. You're vulnerable, like everyone else. And if you have problems, you need to be able to speak about it. And men don't do that. Men don't do that.
Can you actually tap it for mana? To sack for food.
And the answer is yep.
I know it's something I struggle with. I don't know.
Did he name the Gilded Goose? I don't know.
And that is a massive problem, Rach, because everyone needs to be able to speak about what their feelings are, and they need to be able to do it in an open forum where they don't feel bereft by it massively. Like, people do not need to feel bereft by their feelings. And you know what? The more we talk about this, the more I feel that this is what I feel like our joint stream should be about. We should do a joint stream, and it should just be an open stream speaking about mental health, because it's something I feel massively passionate about. And I don't know your individual strifes, and I don't know your individual problems, and I actually don't feel we need to address either of our individual problems, but I feel that it'd be incredibly beneficial to have, you know, like a cross platform, like someone from the UK, someone from the States, just literally talking about issues and talking about it from two different genders as well, like how women respond to mental health, how men respond to mental health, and actually applying female logic and male logic to both of these problems. And I think that's incredibly important because it does open that avenue for discussion yet again. And I think we should multi-stream it. I think that's really important. I think it's really important. I think that'd be a fantastic stream that you and I could do to support mental health. And I think we should literally just get online, get it on Discord, so we can hear each other speak and just have a conversation, because it's great looking at texts. You know, you're texting to me on chat, but I think, you know, let's go on Discord, let's just you and I have a conversation about mental health, and I think that would be really important. I think that'd be really valuable to a lot of people, and I think that'd be really important, really important.
Right, but of course, given that he knows about the mystical dispute, can't really run it out just yet.
That's right. So instead, he's going to go.
Yeah, Paulo has to decide, like, how is he going to be racing? What is his approach here? Does he want
I agree. Bless you. Yeah, no, I do. Well, let's maybe have a chat about that off stream. I need to get you on Discord. I need to get you on chat. Let's have a chat. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's get each other on Discord, and let's have that conversation. Let's have that conversation honestly and live, and let's get people involved. Let's get chat involved, and let's have that conversation, because I think the conversation is not being had enough, and I think it's all about the conversation. So I think that's really valuable. Check Instagram messages. Sorry, sweetheart.
Find a planeswalker, and this is just some way to really pull ahead in this game now. And he's found an Oko.
Spotted that, and I will sort that out. Yeah, so I think that's good.
On a
Cute pick, by the way. Just adding that.
If Paulo turns the food,
but yeah, no, we'll sort that out for sure.
Everything, that's an attack for 8. Kowalski's currently sitting at 15, so that could be.
Can you just send me a message? How do I do that?
If he goes up to 6,
I just need to like.
Okay, so
I don't know how I add you.
He sees it here.
Let me try and do this. Hang on.
Pass the turn back to Kowalski, and
I don't know how I add you.
Because now Paulo is well and truly ahead. He added 6 power to the board there, and all these cards may just end up getting stuck in hand here for Kowalski.
2 seconds.
He did not have a way out, and Paulo Vitor Domidarosa says, "I'm just gonna find the win here," and we're gonna jump right to game number 3 between these two players. Effectively, an elimination match for top 8. Certainly in their mind.
I don't know how I add you.
And wow, I mean, these are again both MPLers going at it, so a lot on the line.
How can I add you?
Is that last card Gilded Goose? If he has a
right, hang on, 2 seconds. I just need to add. Right, hang on.
Oh, it was a questing beast. Nice thing about the questing beast, especially in this matchup, you have to know that one of Kowalski's primary source of interaction is, of course, Deafening Clarion. So 4 toughness, very, very important here.
Land. This one's a temple as well. And just as you say that, Paul, you can see the Deafening Clarion on the top of Kowalski's hand there.
Oh, no mana creatures here for Paulo, but 3 Brazen Borrowers, so
he's going to be looking to bounce basically anything.
Yeah, and the Spyglass, you better believe it's going to get bounced here. It's not going to matter too much what Kowalski names.
No, the interesting part about it is it's more a question of if Paulo can glean any information from what Kowalski ends up naming here.
Yeah, I imagine Kowalski. I mean, the only thing you can name that has any impact whatsoever would be, of course, naming Oko Thief of Crowns here.
So I've tried to add you. Let's see how that goes. Maybe that'll work.
Probably run out an Oko.
Hang on.
Or maybe not. Maybe he just runs out the Brazen Borrower as just a way to just put some pressure on Kowalski. Also leaving up counter magic, right? Kowalski into open mana might not want to just run out something like a Fires of Invention, although he does have maximum information because he did see Paulo's hand with that Sorcerer's Spyglass.
Yeah, just one unknown
I don't know if I've sent that to you. Hopefully, I don't know if I've sent that to you.
Meaning, I don't want to play Oko, but I'm probably going to play Brazen Borrower is kind of the takeaway here for Kowalski.
Yeah, if I was Kowalski and I did have the Fires, I would just run it out here, right? You've seen his hand already.
I've tried to send you a contact. We'll see how that goes, Rach.
You can just go Fires, double spell, and at some point you do have to fight through all of the Brazen Borrower. He does have a Teferi. That's something that he could consider, but keep in mind that Paulo did reveal Questing Beast. So if you do play the Teferi, even if you tick it up, Paulo can just respond by casting Brazen Borrower, then go land Questing Beast and get that Teferi off the battlefield. But now Kowalski probably, because he knows that, is just going to bounce the Brazen Borrower to draw a card.
Yeah, but Paulo didn't have a choice there. He had to cast it in response to Teferi if that was his game plan. And by casting Teferi, it kind of forces Paulo to do that. So this didn't work out horribly for Kowalski, though you do kind of get the vibe that he's scratching and fighting given all the tools that Paulo Vitor Damarosa has in hand and the fact that the Questing Beast just hit Kowalski for 4 and took out Teferi in one fell swoop.
Yeah, but this did buy Kowalski some time. And, you know, we're at the point now. Here, as he has 3 red sources already for Cavalier of Flame, so you want the 3rd island to hardcast Cavalier of Gales.
It's funny, he just noticed that, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he does get an island.
I don't know how to find it.
And there is a Cavalier of Flame. So now that also has the enter the battlefield ability of discarding X cards and drawing X cards.
Of course, that's a great way to find your next Cavalier. Looks like that Spyglass plus a land. So discard 2, draw 2. Go ahead.
Rach, I think I've added you. I don't know.
Of course, one key interaction is just
2 seconds. Let me just DM you on Discord.
shutting off.
Are you currently logged into Discord?
Choose to just play Oko, turn Cavalier into a 3/3, and then just attack with Questing Beast. And if he does have land number 5, he can also.
If you can log into Discord, that'd be sweet.
Keep up the bounce effect, petty theft. But it looks like he doesn't have land number 5, so. Oh no, he does. He does. Okay.
He does, and he's just going to leave up Brazen Borrower. Passes the turn back.
Yeah, playing the tempo game here. Kowalski already had 12 life.
Yeah, it does add up quickly. The Questing Beast got in there a couple of times. Now the Borrower's threatening him. There's a land for Kowalski. This is game 3 decider, too.
One thing I'll note is that...
I'm logging in. Okay, sweet. Cool. Do that, and I'll see if I can just send you... I'll just send you my number, and then just add +44 in front of it.
Borrower has been extremely impressive.
And there's Cavalier of Flame.
Mrs. Fox.
Trigger goes on.
So now Kowalski needs to dig here, but...
More pet picks. Super cute.
Cast Brazen Borrower on my turn. Once again, bounce Cavalier of Flame. Attack you for 7. That's going to put Kowalski down to 5 life.
Wow, all these Brazen Borrowers. He's just going to cast this one.
Paulo very familiar with playing with a bunch of flash fairies. He had a lot of success back in the day when blue-black fairies was one of the most dominant decks in the format.
Look at that, though. Mystical Dispute
Okay.
with that last blue mana from Gregors Kowalski says, no thank you. And Paulo's going to have to settle for the Questing Beast this turn.
I wonder if he's just going to go for the same play that he did before. Bounce Cavalier, attack you for 4.
It does seem like a pattern that's hard to get away from if you're Gregors Kowalski here. There it is. Send it back to your hand. Jam for 4 with the Questing Beast and pass the turn back. And he's got to be getting sick of having cast this Cavalier Flame every turn and never really being able to do anything with it.
So Kowalski's
There
not
we go.
dead
Cool.
just yet, right? Because
2 seconds, Rach. I got you.
that would be 7 damage that comes in. So if Paulo does use the last Brazen Borrower in hand, that won't be enough. And Kowalski mixing it up this turn and running out a Teferi here instead.
And Paulo is going to do the same thing we saw in the last game. He's going to respond with the Brazen Borrower as he must if that's his plan. And now Teferi can return the Questing Beast.
Yep.
It is rough, though. You know, returning a haste creature, not really great, especially when it's one that's going to knock your life total down to 1 effectively and kill your Teferi.
The only upside is that you know that he's pretty
Try that,
likely to
Rach.
play it, and Paulo did miss a land drop, so at the very least you know that Paulo is not going to have, or there's less of a likelihood that Paulo has a follow-up play after the question.
We should then be able to chat on WhatsApp, I'm sure.
And Kowalski running out the Scry land here first before bouncing the Questing Beast most likely here.
He is looking at his options. He only has 2 choices. He could return Brazen Borrower, but that kind of locks him in this awkward loop. Though he is in you do what you got to do mode here, and we'll see. Down to 8 is Gregors Kowalski against the all-timer, Paulo Vitor Damaderosa.
I mean, bouncing the
I should just call you. That's what I should do.
real option here, unless
I should just do this. This is far easier.
Present realm, you just don't want to be bouncing the Brazen Borrower.
Cool. I'm just going to mute my microphone.
He did. He bounced the Brazen Borrower. Draws his card.
Where he just bounces at end of turn with the Brazen Borrower, or even just kill that enchantment with that Thrashing Brontodon.
Yeah, and you know how standard is these days, too. It's all Planeswalkers and enter the battlefield creatures and such, so It's not like they just get their thing back. They're usually getting something else in addition.
Looks like Paulo wants to respond to the enter the battlefield effect on Cavalier of Flame, just so that Kowalski can't draw some kind of counterspell to counter the Brazen Borrower here. Although now, if Kowalski desperately needs to find an answer, he could just pitch his entire hand and draw 4 cards.
Is there any way out for him?
It looks like Paulo's going to get this one. I mean, Kowalski, if he does go land Prison Realm, Paulo has the Brazen Borrower to bounce that. Like, Deafening Clarion doesn't get it done. And remember, Kowalski does not have access to a lot of mana here because he spent all of it casting the Cavalier of Flame.
Just does 1 card, and he found a Teferi.
Teferi won't get it done.
He's got Fabled Passage for land number 3. Yeah, Teferi's definitely not enough here.
Yeah, if he uses Teferi to bounce a Questing Beast, Paulo simply just replays it.
And kills him. So things looking good for Paulo Vitor Damarosa. He's got his opponent, Gregors Kowalski, down to 4 life. He has threats in hand that he can cast on Gregor's turn. He has a lethal threat on the battlefield with nothing opposing it currently.
Paulo's played 3 spells this game.
The same Brazen Borrower 3 times?
He's just played Brazen Borrower and Questing Beast, and that's all it took. Meanwhile, Kowalski desperately digging through his deck for enough answers here.
And I believe he's going to fall short here. Yeah, we have it right here, right? We know that there's a Thrashing Brontodon. All he has to do is blow up the Prison Realm, and that gives him a hasty flyer, or a hasty creature that can just kill him. And even then, it's just another petty theft, and he's going to steal the game here. So that is Paulo Vitor Damarosa in contention for top 8 here with only 3 losses going into the last round. A win for sure would put him in, and he may even be able to consult the standings board and see what's up.
I mean, we even talked about this in the limited portion. We're like, oh, wait, hey, that's Paulo's name, right? He's a closer. And guess what he did? He was down a game, and then didn't matter. He came back. It looked like he mulliganed in the second game too, but still just put enough pressure. And Kowalski, I mean, the deck sometimes a little inconsistent, and it didn't really do a whole lot for him in that last game.
Yeah, you'd think you get used to seeing Paulo at the top tables, and I kind of have actually. So, all right, so we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be at the news desk where Maria Rich and the crew will be breaking down everything that's going on the tournament floor, and then we'll be gearing up for the last round of the day here. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, everyone. It's interview time down on the floor. Tim Willoughby is with the 12-3 Ely Cassis.
Thank you, Rich. Yeah, down here with Ely Cassis, who's looking pretty pleased with himself right now at an X-2 record with just a single round to go. So in prime position to start thinking about that magical top 8. But it's not been a perfect run for you. Things started off a little scary.
Yeah, I was 0-2 to start today, so not happy about that, but I'm super happy where I am now. So I think even with a loss, I might be in, but hoping for a draw to just cleanly make it in.
Now, as I understand it, if you are 0-2 in draft to begin with, that means that you have not dropped a match yet in Construct. Is that correct?
No, I dropped one match. So I was 8-0 yesterday. I'm X3 today. So I lost to Fires Kowalski. Very solid player, tough matchup.
Well, I mean, Kowalski, we just saw on camera having a little bit of a tricky time, so it may be that you're able to dodge him towards the end here, but this has been quite the ride for the adventures. Do you think you got one more adventure in you?
I certainly hope so.
All right, best of luck to you, Ely Cassis, here as we go into our final round here at the Mythic Championship in Richmond.
All right, thanks very much. There, Tim Willoughby down on the floor with Ely Cassis. So what we're going to do, we're going to show you a feature now called the Contenders. What we did is we looked back at a whole bunch of Mythic Championships, and it turns out that if you look at the standings after 14 rounds, well, in the top 14, 15 decks, somewhere you have your top 8. Occasionally someone sneaks in. Fundamentally, that is your top 8 there. So we're going to go right from the start, as things stood at the end of 14, introduce you to the players and introduce you to the decks that we're expecting to see tomorrow in the top 8. Maria,
All right.
Eduardo.
Let's kick things off at the top of the list with Austin Bursovic. Austin having an amazing weekend, running Sultai Food, 3 Grand Prix top 8s to his name, and 1 win. All right, Eduardo, this was kind of, when coming into the tournament anyway, was the food deck.
Right, yeah, this is as stock a deck you can have. If you were testing against Sultai Food, I think you would build something pretty similar to this. It was a deck that kind of came out of the Mythic Championship qualifier weekend. You'd expect something like a Liliana Dreadhorde General at the top of the curve, a Castle Ventress, maybe to smooth the draws out, an extra 25th land. But that package, Gilded Goose, This House Shakes the World, Oko Fief of Crowns, Wicked Wolf, Once Upon a Time, they've been the defining traits of the standard tournament.
And we've got Vraska, Golgari Queen, also in this list, along with Noxious Grasp, a pretty strong nod to what they thought the field was going to be.
Right, and that was the big thing is Noxious Grasp is kind of the reason to run this deck. Vraska is a value engine. You can sacrifice food that you're generating to draw cards. You can get rid of an opposing Oko, but the alt-star actually is Noxious Grasp. Just an efficient way to deal with a high loyalty walker.
All right, let's take a look at the next person on our list, Louis Deltour, also running, drumroll please, Sultai Food. Here it is. Once again, Eduardo, a little about Louis, 6 Grand Prix top 8s to his name, so no stranger to the game of Magic.
No, and he, actually a funny story is today he did his 31st kind of Mythic Championship Pro Tour level draft. It's the first time he 3-0'd one in
Really?
31 attempts
31
over
tries.
Right, but you know, you just keep trying until you get there, and I mean, as a result, he combined that with a very strong, historic kind of constructed game. We've seen him at the head of a lot of constructed Grand Prix in the European circuit, and you know, he's finally made his mark. Now here, the main part of the deck that's a little different are those Casualties of War.
Right.
Brad Nelson alluded to this being the key card for the food mirrors and being an overperformer in his list. So no surprise to kind of see this as a top end option, being able to take care of a planeswalker and a large creature. And the land seems innocent, but it's anything but, since you need those 6 mana plays to take over.
Okay, let's move right along to the next person who is in third after round 14, which is Ely Cassis. Ely Cassis, 8 Grand Prix top 8s and 2 wins under his belt. Playing something a little bit different here, Golgari Adventure, which was the most popular deck for people who were not running food.
And here, the story of this deck is the engine of Edgewall Innkeeper. The 1/1 that essentially turned, I mean, well, I'll talk about the most epic moment we've seen today on camera. But essentially what this deck is trying to do is play an Edgewall Innkeeper, play a few adventure creatures, and kind of take control that way. Essentially, you're using Foulmire Knight as a card draw engine. You're using Murderous Rider to kind of take care of these high loyalty walkers, and It doesn't look like much to have a 1/1 Death Touch for 1. It doesn't look like much to have a 2 free life flinker for free. But over the course of the game, you keep removing things, you keep drawing cards, and eventually take over the game.
The thing for me with this deck is I played it for a while, trying to beat the food decks and everything. I found that without Edgewall Innkeeper, though, I didn't feel like I could win.
Yeah, I mean, Edgewall Innkeeper is kind of everything here, really. It is a deck that exists because that card exists. This deck could not exist without Edgewall Innkeeper.
Wow, 1/1 for 1.
Yes.
Sure, pulling its weight here.
It says draw a card. It's clearly extremely powerful as a result. But repeat card draw for so cheap is worth it. It's worth building your deck around it.
All right, let's move right along. Andrew Cuneo running Celestia Adventure. So now a slightly different flavor of an adventure deck. Andrew Cuneo, this is his 47th Mythic Championship. He's a member of the MPL. Some top 8s under his belt as well. All right, so this deck is trying to fight Oko by going wide.
Exactly. If the previous adventure deck was about going kind of mid-range and controlling, no, we're dumping every permanent we can as fast as we can on the board. And we saw kind of a lot of games with Cuneo on camera, and if you look back at the games with Innkeeper and without Innkeeper, they are totally different ballparks.
Right.
I think, though, the game that sticks in my mind was the game where Andrew Cuneo had free Edgewall Innkeepers in very short order and started casting the equivalent of Ancestral Recall. As Giant Killer was cast, and it was essentially Ancestral Recall.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the opposition didn't last long from there.
I love that. Something else I love in this deck is Shepherd of the Flock, which didn't always used to be a part of this deck, but you can have some fun turns with that and Fairy Guidemother and Lovestruck Beast or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the key for Shepherd of the Flock is really that you need a critical mass of adventure creatures. It's still a cheap one, and it's also, on top of rebuying these things, you can rebuy Venerated Loxodon.
That sounds good to me.
It was very good in the game where we saw it happen.
All right, so moving right along, that's Andrew Cuneo. We're gonna take a look at Max Mix deck here, Simic Food. Now this is where we started when we were on Simic Food. Not necessarily this build, because we're looking at 4 copies of Brazen Borrower, 4 copies of Ether Gust, which is a slightly new innovation, but when we started playing with Oko, we were like, hey, let's just do Simic.
Yeah, and the main thing here that shows you kind of the meta game are those 4 Aether Gusts. That's the key. Apart from the straight up 2-color mana base, 4 Aether Gusts. The idea is you have Brazen Borrower, you have Aether Gust, you can kind of answer whatever is going on in front, because whatever is going on in front is probably Oko. The kind of key innovation in the deck is that Gadwick, the Wizened. Essentially, with Once Upon a Time, you don't really just have one copy of it. If you really need to get to it, Once Upon a Time helps you go further through your deck, and kind of adds as this hybrid of a 5th Krasis, and also as a way to push through damage due to that second ability on the card.
And you know what's interesting too, talking to Frank Karsten earlier today, Simic Food appeared to be the best performing version of the food decks at these tournaments. A little bit about Max Mick. This is his 6th Mythic Championship, so doing very well this time around. Next up, we have Greg Kowalski playing a really sweet deck, Just Sky Fires, using Fires of Invention to, you know, not use any mana to cast your spells.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this deck all day in the feature match area because we can't have enough of it.
It's so sweet.
Oh yeah. The idea here, you want to cast Fires of Invention, and with that there's kind of 2 main packages. It's a shame we can't see the sideboard, because granted on Fae of Wishes is very important to get a variety of options. You can get Casualties of War, but with Fires of Invention, this doesn't matter. You can still cast it regardless of color commitment cost. But the main combo in this deck is Cavalier of Flame alongside kind of any other creature, Cavalier of Gales, Kenrith the Returned King, or even that Sphinx of Foresight. And essentially the idea being, well, you cast your spells for 0 mana with Fires of Invention, but that means you have plenty of mana left over, so you can give haste to 2 creatures and come crashing in for a ton of damage. So not your traditional control deck. It's a little closer to an archetype you don't see too often, but we have 2 of in standard in control combo. This and Temur Reclamation, for me, kind of representatives of that.
Right, and this deck is meant to fight Oko by going over the top, doing bigger and better things there. That 1 copy of Sphinx of Foresight in the deck, 1 of 2 copies in the building this weekend. And Greg said, you know, it's the blue Once Upon a Time, right?
Right, exactly. That was good. Yeah, that's how I see it. It's, look, not everybody should have fun with manipulating their library to start the game. But here, I think the main difference in the Jeskai Fires deck for me was it's probably very strong against the main variety of food, which we've seen, which is Sultai food. But against Simic Food, not so much. And you saw that in the match, maybe with Paolo. You know, cheap disruption is a big problem for this deck.
Speaking of Paolo, he is next up on our list of contenders. Let's take a look at what he brought to battle with this weekend, Simic Food, and in his list, a couple copies of Mass Manipulation.
Yeah, and this is really the blue casualties of war in a way that kind of go over the top slot. The idea is if you untap with Nissa Who Shakes the World and you mass manipulate some planeswalkers, things are going to go pretty well for you. But that's the main difference. Otherwise, it's a package we've kind of seen throughout these decks, but piloted by one of the best players on the historically and active. I mean, just.
Do you know how many
storied player
Mythic Championship top 8s Paulo has?
I lost count. I know he's won 2. I believe he has 12?
13. So this would be lucky number 14 for him if he makes it in. So a really highly decorated player there in Paulo. Up next, Borja Munoz playing Jund Sacrifice. Borja, this is his first Mythic Championship. Just 22 years old, 1 Grand Prix top 8 to his name. And what a cool deck. Hello, Corvold.
Yeah, Corvold, Faker's King. Kind of a card you don't really see much, but really the reason to run this deck. A large, beefy flyer that can sacrifice things for value. But you know what's good to sacrifice? Things like that Cauldron's Familiar, that Witch's Oven, and then or a food from a Gilded Goose, and then you start generating value. You draw cards, you get your engine online, Witch's Oven, Cauldron Familiar, an engine we've seen a lot in the feature match area. And essentially this is kind of trying to act against the food decks by still having the package of Noxious Grasp, but trying to attack on a different axis that might be a little more invulnerable to something to the actual card Noxious Grasp. It is semi-weak though to something like Aether Gust, which is why the Simic food decks can be a problem for this deck sometimes.
You know what's interesting is Sultai Sacrifice had quite a weekend, especially coming in today too. How do you like Jund Sacrifice compared to that deck?
I preferred the Sultai Sacrifice deck just because the mana costs across the board were cheaper. You were getting things like Murderous Rider, so you are going into a real plan. This is a little more versatile, but I feel that you're still running into Aether Gust and the Noxious Grasp that people are bringing in. Not quite as much, but I felt that the Sultai Sacrifice was a little better of a choice, but this is definitely a cool deck.
I have to say, I love the Cat Oven combo, making a splash here at the Mythic Championship after starting in a deck that a lot of people were just playing as like, this seems fun.
Yeah, we've seen it kind of all weekend, and it performed relatively well, honestly.
All right, up next, let's take a look at what Robert Smith brought to the tournament. He is from Canada, playing Simic Flash. All right, 4 Grand Prix top 8s and 1 win. I say all right, but I hate this deck. I never want to play against it. It's terrible.
By the way, so to explain what this deck does, it's you try to get ahead by a tiny bit, not much. You just need a little bit of something ahead, like a 2-1 for 2 in that Brineborn Cutthroat, a free 1 flyer, a Night Pack Ambusher. Once you're ahead, you stay ahead.
I feel like I played against this deck on Arena like 1,000 times, and everything I did, they just said, no, no.
Now, something funny about this deck, specifically this list that you don't see because the sideboard, see, here's the thing with Robert Smith. He decided, I want to play Simic Flash. I'm not sure if it's good. So the sideboard has 5 cards: Gilded Goose, Oko Thief of Crowns, Wicked Wolf.
Okay.
You kind of see where this is going, yeah.
Yes,
so he decided, look, I think it's better to play Simic Flash, but if I'm wrong, I can at least switch to Simic Food.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
I love it. A flexible plan, transformative sideboard, as we say. Let's move right along to our next contender here. And boy, what a contender we have in Javier Dominguez, bringing Gruul Adventure. I tell you what, if he top 8s this tournament, I'm just going to pack it all in. This is one of the best players playing Magic right now. He just won the last Mythic Championship playing Gruul, a different build than this, but not too dissimilar.
I mean, this is quite a bit different. I mean, one of the differences between the Gruul deck you might be traditionally used to seeing is that deck was a curve deck. It was Pelk Collector, Zertar Goblin, trying to go over the top. The big difference here is this is way more combat-centric. You're using Rimrock Knight as a combat trick. You still have that Bone Crusher Giant to kind of put the pressure. But really what this deck wants to do is pressure walkers, Domri's Ambush, Questing Beast, 4 copies each. Idrwell Innkeeper as a way to kind of cycle through the middle of your curve in Lovestruck Beast and Bone Crusher Giant. And however, still to top it off is Embercleave, but they've been telling me it's Embercleave and Bone Crusher Giant when you're facing Noxious Grasp.
All right, fantastic stuff. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Eduardo. The good news is we have standings after 15 and we think we know exactly where we stand. We have seen a lot of the top 8 already there, I can tell you. This is what it looks like. Austin Bursovic is on 40 points. He faces Paulo Vita Dama de Rosa in this last round. Now Bursovic can, of course, ID, he can concede. Paulo would love an ID. He's not going to get one. Bursovic is going to try and put out the 13-time Mythic Championship top 8 in the last round. I don't want you in Sunday, thank you. Go away, Mr. Hall of Fame. What? That is happening right now.
Dream Crush.
That's the plan. So Bursovic safely through. That's a Sultai food deck. Paulo Vita Dama de Rosa will need to beat Bursovic or get a draw to secure his place. So we're one certain and then Paulo up in the air. Table 2 is Louis Deltour against Ely Cassis. 37 points for Deltour, 36 for Cassis. They can intentionally draw. If they did so, they would both be in the top 8. That would be Sultai Food for Deltour and Golgari Adventure for Ely Cassis. We expect them to ID. We'll see if they do. Table 3, Andrew Cuneo on 36 against Sebastian Pozzo on 36. If they choose to intentionally draw, as we think they will both go to 37 points and will be in. That will be Selesnya Adventure for Andrew Cuneo and Simic Food for Sebastian Pozzo. So we're at 5 or 6, depending on whether Paulo wins or loses. Then we've got the 2 air quote win and in matches. First of all, a clear win and in. Elliot Bousseau of France on 35 points faces Denmark's Oscar Christensen on 34 points. The winner there gets to 37, and that's it. That's the end of that one. So that guarantees you the 7th slot. And then Andrei Straski of the Czech Republic on 34 is paired down against Max Mick of the United States on 33. If Straski wins, that's clear. He gets to 37. He's in for sure. Now, if Mick wins, he will advance to 36 points, and there will be 1 or 2 36-pointers making it in. Right now, Max Mick is in prime position to do that with a win, so we suspect that Straski against Mick is a win and in for both players. Now, the question is, if Paulo loses, that opens up a second 36-pointer. Right now, second in that tie-break scrum is Grzegorz Kowalski. So, right now, Bursovic in, we believe, with IDs Deltour, Cassis, Cuneo, Pozzo in. Winning in, Bousseau against Christensen. Winning in for Straski, likely winning in for Mick. And then Grzegorz Kowalski and the likes of Steven Tuchik and Remy Lefrancois, who plays Mike Sigrist in the feature match area, they will be praying that Austin Bursovic can knock out Paulo Vita Dama de Rosa at the last and free up a second spot on the tie-break scrum. That is what we're looking like. And by my reckoning, that means, all things being equal, we are probably looking at a Golgari Adventure, a Selesnya Adventure, and a lot of food.
Wow. Would you expect these adventure decks to be here in our top 8, Eduardo?
I was hoping.
We were definitely hoping for it.
I mean, I had a lot of fun watching Andrew Cuneo on Selesnya Adventure. Who was it? I'm trying to remember, but as somebody put it, oh yeah, Chris Picula. Wow, Andrew Cuneo is vomiting a lot of permanents onto the table.
Yeah, that is exactly what he said, and it was entirely true. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a very short break. The players are down in the feature match area, and when we come back, Elliot Bousseau against Oscar Christensen, Andrei Straski against Max Mick, Grzegorz Kowalski against Steven Tuchik, and Remy Lefrancois against Mike Sigrist will determine the outcome of who we see tomorrow in the top 8. Don't go away, will you?
And hello there, welcome back to the booth here at Mythic Championship 6. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, that's Paul Cheon. And if you're just joining us, you have come at just the right time here, because this is where we fill out those last few seats for the top 8. This is with everything on the line, the tension in the feature match area. You can cut it with a knife. It is very thick. Let's get down there right now. Take a look. That is your main floor here in round number 16. But as we transition over to the big lights, the cameras, and of course the big stage here, you see our main feature match area where we have 2 players about to battle it out. Right there, you're looking at Oscar Christensen from Denmark, 11-3-1 is Oscar's record playing Soul Thai Food. That is Elliot Bousseau from France, also with Soul Thai Food, 11-2-2 is his record. What that means here, Paul, is this what we have, what we call a clean win and in. The winner of this match is going to be in the top 8, the loser will not. It is that simple, and they are playing, well, calling this a mirror, not so much. Interestingly, Elliot, during playtesting, was trying out a Fae of Wishes deck, and he found that he kept on searching up Casualties of War over and over again, and he's just decided, you know what? Why don't we just put a bunch of these in the main deck here of this Soul Thai Food deck? This is what I always want anyway. He's playing full 4 copies.
Wow. And a card that's missing that most people have been playing 3 to 4 copies of? No Once Upon a Time. That is really interesting.
If you've been following Standard, that is jaw-dropping. Like,
it is the most played card in the entire tournament.
Exactly. He's given up consistency in lieu of raw late-game power, and we're going to find out during this match if it worked out for him, at least here. Now, for Oscar, he's running a more, I don't know, you call it stock version, right? There's a few flex slots, we call them. Those are the spots that are outside of that sort of core package of food-based cards, you know, the Gilded Gooses and the Okos and that kind of thing. And let's find out who's going to win. Is it going to be the more standardized deck list, or is it going to be go big or go home in the hands of Elliot? Right now, well, he didn't turbo it out, but he did produce a turn 3 Oko. So he's got to be happy with that. He passes the turn back to Oscar, though. And let's see if Oscar can fight back here, perhaps with the 1 copy of Vraska Golgari Queen he has in his deck. Maybe if he's fortunate enough to have that in his hand.
Looks like he's got an Assassin's Trophy. He actually split the difference. Most decks running 2 copies of Vraska, but he's playing 1 Vraska and 1 Assassin's Trophy instead.
That's right. That's an untapped Watery Grave, so we're going to see something here. Is it just going to be his own Oko? Yeah, that's what it's going to be.
And the question here is he going to apply pressure to the Oko, or is he just going to keep it back? Because if he does attack, that does leave that Paradise Druid open to cards like Wicked Wolf that Elliot might play on curve.
And if you've watched this matchup a lot, which you probably have, you'll know that the players will often prioritize going after opposing mana creatures at this stage in the game to try to stunt their development. Oscar having none of it, though. He's just going to make a food and pass a turn and leaving his Paradise Druid safely in hexproof mode here. Though it does look like Elliot wants to start applying pressure to the opposing Oko, so he's going to turn that food into an Elk and attack, and Oscar says, sure, you got it. There's 3 loyalty gone. Of course, one of the many very powerful things about Oko is the very high loyalty that you get with 2 different plus abilities, including a +2. It just means that attacks like this are unlikely to be able to take Oko off the battlefield. It's a more long-term effort.
Yeah, looks like Elliot.
Go from Elliot?
It looks like Elliot was a bit flooded there. He had a bunch of lands, a second Oko, and a negate.
So he's going to have to settle for leaving negate up here?
Yeah, and negate also kind of Elliot with a more unusual build of this deck, right? Negate is typically not a card that you see in the main, and Elliot has that 1 in along with the full 4 copies of Casualties of War, along with a singular Massacre Girl. What's also interesting about that is the fact that Massacre Girl is nicer when you do play cards like Once Upon a Time, as it gives you a card that you can search for with Once Upon a Time, so you don't need to play as many copies, and it's a permanent. However, again, Elliot choosing not to play Once Upon a Time, playing some more top-end threats, and playing 2 additional copies of Growth Spiral to help kind of ramp into the the expensive spells in his deck.
It's a bold move.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's been paying off for him quite well. Oscar Christensen, though, is fighting back nicely here. He's going to play Wicked Wolf, sacrifice a food with a trigger on the stack, and take out the 3/3 elk on the other side of the battlefield. Once again, he does have a decision that he could make here with regards to attacking Oko with his Paradise Druid, though he's decided against it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's really all that concerned about that Oko on the other side of the battlefield. I mean, Elliot can make a food. He can maybe go for a swap, but there's not even a creature that he can steal here. So really just preserving Paradise Druid, recognizing that what's really important in this matchup is making sure you have that mana, and also just making sure you can keep that Wicked Wolf alive. Things continue to be a bit awkward here for Busseau. He drew a Hydrate Crisis, but he's kind of 1 mana away from that sweet spot. You really want to get to the land number 6 to be able to draw 2 cards with the Crisis.
Well, Elliot's going to take care of the Wicked Wolf on the other side of the battlefield by turning it into an elk. Of course, worth noting here that the +1/+1 counter stays, so this is a 4/4 elk.
And Busseau needs to find some action. He might just run out of 3/3 Crisis here. Nope, he's going to wait. Feels pretty bad to run it out.
He really wants that value.
Oh, yeah. he does.
It's a whole extra card, another life. It really does matter. Also, again, you mentioned it before, but he can sit back on negate here and potentially get something like Nissa or something like that, which he's going to be concerned about anyway.
Yeah, one of the issues with a card like negate is just the fact that, if Oscar is aware of the fact that Elliot has that card in hand, and Elliot has a bunch of cards. What could he possibly have? You could be thinking, okay, well, one of those cards might be the negate. So what can you do? You can still just run out a bunch of creatures. You have really powerful top-end threats like Hydrate Crisis, which negate won't die to, or even just running out more Wicked Wolves.
It is funny, too, and I really do like this from Elliot. He has 1 negate, and it's in the main deck. And, all throughout the whole tournament, the players exchange deck lists when they sit down. It's the first card listed on his deck list. That might not even be a mistake. And he just wants you to think about it, right? Do you want to respect the fact that I could have a negate here? And as you said, a lot of times they can just play around it pretty easily. But there's some situations where having just that 1 card actually gets you more value than you even bargained for, because people will play around it. And by the way, here is Nissa who shakes the world, and realistically, that's about the best thing he can use.
Oh, absolutely.
A negate on, and there it is. The main deck 1 of negate gets there for Elliot Busseau.
So now Oscar can finish off the Oko that's on the battlefield here. He can get in and attack for, it looks like 9 damage.
Attack Oko, says Oscar. And finally, Oko leaves, but there is a replacement in hand, though, as you mentioned before, what the setup seems here more likely is for a big Hydrate Crisis.
Yeah. I mean, this seems like the best opportunity here. Play out a Crisis, try to find some additional interaction, maybe some Noxious Grasps, Casualties of War. Very likely to find that at some point, right? He went up to the full 4 copies of that card.
Yeah, you could see a world here where he casts a Hydrate Crisis for 4, maybe finds a Casualties of War, and next turn can start deploying those.
And there are metagames where you're like, well, that's just too many expensive cards in your deck. But if coming in, if you expect most of the field to be on kind of these slower mid-range food decks, then all of a sudden you have kind of what many consider to be the trump card in this matchup. Many people play 1 to 2 copies, and he's like, you know what? I don't want to mess around. I'm going to play all 4.
I love the idea. I just don't think I gave my head around not playing Once Upon a Time.
Right.
You know what I mean? I would be like, I can't replace Once Upon a Times with 6 drops. Obviously, you had to, change some land things around in addition to that. But that's just how my brain would equate it. I just can't imagine not playing it in the format.
Also, one of the issues with playing too many cards like Casualties of War, you do kind of get that surprise factor or that edge game 1. But after sideboard, most of these decks are playing 3 copies at least of Veil of Summer, and all of a sudden you get to negate a powerful 6-mana spell with just 1 mana.
And we're going to see the Wicked Wolf come down, eat the food, and in the process, eat the Hydroid Croesus. And that could clear the way for a bunch of damage here for Oscar Christensen as well. And, you know, as we've been talking about it, Elliott, he's going to need to find some big stuff here. We're not talking about, hey, that could be cool. He's fallen way behind on board, as you can see, and is going to need to start cleaning this up and quickly. He may even just be too far behind at this point, Paul.
Yeah. Massacre Girl would be a card. That would certainly help. If he draws Massacre Girl, there are 2 Paradise Druids in play, which would then give you enough triggers to basically wipe out the entire board. So that would be a start if he could find the singular Massacre Girl that he has in the main.
He did find the singular negate. Why not find the singular Massacre Girl, although he doesn't have it in his hand currently. So he's going to play Gilded Goose, make a food. Then what?
Probably Oko, make a blocker.
Okay. There we go. And another blocker. So this was a big turn here for Busseau. And while he didn't completely swing this game back in his favor, he at least put up some resistance to buy himself a little more time.
Yeah, but Oscar just has more removal here. There is a Noxious Grasp. Also remember, he's been holding that Assassin's Trophy for the entire game, so not sure if, let's see, he's got a Wicked Wolf, 2 Elk, and 2 Paradise Druids in play, which would mean that he has total of 14 damage.
15, right? One of the Elks has a counter.
Oh, you're correct. So 11, 15 damage. If he kills everything,
it's lethal.
It's lethal. And the thing is, he could trade the Paradise Druid after tapping it with the Oko that's in play and steal one of the creatures in play as well.
Oh, sure.
So I think he sees it, and I think he's probably just kind of making sure he goes through the numbers, but just double checking. You get to kill an Elk here. You Assassin's Trophy the Gilded Goose. Well, no. I guess that wouldn't work because the Paradise Druid has Hexproof.
Yeah, that is actually what's preventing it. But still, you got to feel like Oscar could send in a devastating attack here. And even if it doesn't actually kill Elliott this turn, probably means that Elliott has to just cold rip the Massacre Girl just to stay in the game.
However, if he does, I mean, he might be right back in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
As crazy as it is, these are all coming at Busseau.
So this is a lethal attack. So Elliott does need to make some blocks here.
And it will be interesting to see how Elliott maneuvers these blocks, because if this situation has come to the point that Massacre Girl is the only out, he needs to make sure that he leaves the board state such that if he draws Massacre Girl, enough triggers will go on the stack to actually wipe the board. Now, with a bunch of Paradise Druids, that's pretty easy. But here, you know, if you trade off a couple of them, it could, you know, lose your goose. He wouldn't actually have enough. So he's got to be careful just to keep that in mind.
So if he blocks the Wicked Wolf, he will take 11 damage and go down to 2. Keep in mind, the other Wicked Wolf has been turned into an Elk, so it's simply a 4/4. Can't sacrifice any food there to make that one bigger.
All right, block like this, he says.
So you take 11, down to 2.
Oscar doing our job for us. And he just says go. So this really needs to be Massacre Girl, realistically, if Busseau's going to have a chance to fight back into this game.
Yes. Casualties of War will not do it here.
Not even close. Let's see if he can draw it. It was a land. It certainly wasn't Massacre Girl.
Yeah, and that should do it for this game.
He really needed to see that one of come off the top of the library here. Yeah, he has a Gilded Goose. He can block, make a food, sack the food, but he has fallen so far behind that anything incremental like that is not even close to good enough. He can make 2 foods. One with the goose, one with the Oko.
So he can gain 6 life.
Go to 8.
After a block?
Yeah.
But that's still not enough, right?
No, it's not. It is not.
Oscar can animate the other food that he has in play.
Yeah, he doesn't even need it, but sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, Busseau says, yeah, well, I'm going to make you do it.
I think it's really important for Busseau, though, to realize, I mean, he's already got 2 draws here. He does need to make sure that he can give himself as much time as possible to win this match. These matchups go long, and if you're dead on board, you should really try to finish the match as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I appreciate going through the motions and being, you know, really making sure that that everything is as it seems. But this is a situation where this whole turn cycle he could have saved the time on.
Absolutely.
By just conceding. You know, he knows he's going to lose. He didn't even need the noxious grasp there, so it was on board. And as you said, with 2 draws, I mean, we have players in the room that don't have 2 draws in their career, you know, at this level. You get 2 draws in there, you want to make sure that 3rd draw really not great for him. As it stands, I don't think it's going to be an issue. That game didn't take a super long time. It was a typical drawn out game, but he needs to win 2 more games here, and you know, he wants to put himself in the position to be able to do that comfortably.
Yeah, again, it could definitely come up. I've seen games go to distance. I mean, I've seen games go up to 40 minutes, individual games, just because if both players get those reasonable draws without enough interaction, all of a sudden, both sides just have armies of 3/3s on the battlefield, and oftentimes a game could just be decided by a Planeswalker ultimate going off. And in those games, I mean, every single minute counts. And again, neither of these players are going to be doing themselves any favors if they pick up a draw here. They need to win this to make it into the top 8.
Yeah, and you know, this format has produced some long games in Sultai Mirrors like what we have here. I mean, we even saw, you know, I noticed on Twitter, Ben Stark had picked up a draw. That's something I don't think I've ever seen him get a draw. You know, he plays very quickly, and he will push, hey, we need to make sure we do this when he needs to. So, yeah, got to be careful with those. But again, hopefully we'll be able to get through this one with no drawn sight for these players. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, though, we'll be right back down into the feature match area with more action from round 16 here from Mythic Championship 6. Don't go anywhere.
No, in general, I like enjoying new formats, new spaces, new stuff, and well, that's Pioneer is like landed in a very sweet spot where there is not a lot of stuff that's very strong, like that's traditionally broken in Magic, like ritual effects and like free spells, etc. That's not really all that present in the format. So these types of things typically invalidate a lot of cards that are more suited for games that are going to go like a little bit more mid-rangey. So it seems like by its nature the format is both bigger than standard, and there's like a lot of the cards are going to be viable because there's no well, essentially no stack-based combo that polishes a lot of mid-range cards in formats like Modern or Legacy. So it's really interesting to see for me how it's gonna develop, and it's really cool. I like playing it, and it's fun.
My thoughts on Pioneer is that playing Saheeli Cat was absolutely awesome, and now that that's gone, I'm loving Sultai mid-range decks that allow you to just like have some fun, play Oko in a format where it's not banned, and control the board state and go over the top of everyone.
So the Pioneer format is brand new. I've been trying not to think about it. It's been really, really hard to not get sucked into that while I'm preparing for this tournament. So I actually am really looking forward to having this tournament behind me and being able to dive in there, because I like exploring, what to do in this new format. What are the top players and what are their weaknesses? And so I think I'm going to plan on waiting a little bit for the dust to settle in terms of which cards are going to show up and which cards are going to be successful, which cards are going to get banned. Once the dust is settled, I look to kind of see how do I attack those decks that are rising to the top. And so I'm looking forward to that. Haven't done it yet, but it's exciting to think about Pioneer.
Yeah. Pioneer is very cool format. Unfortunately, I didn't have too much time to practice for it, but I have this cool idea in my hand that is Mono Blue Devotion. I made 2 Channel Fireball video with Mono Blue Devotion. So that's definitely a deck that I can't wait to just leave it up in paper and play.
And welcome back to the feature match area here in Richmond. We're here for Mythic Championship 6. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got round 16 action, and if this is your first time watching a Mythic Championship like this is the last round before we cut to top 8. And that means that a lot of the feature matches we have here are actually win-in-ins. Now, the one that we're popping in on here is Gregor Kowalski on the right there against Steven Tuchek. And this is Teamer Reclamation in the hands of Steven. Gregor's is playing Jeskai Fires. So not a matchup that would define the tournament, but cool that we get to see it. Now, I will mention here, though, that Kowalski, while technically in contention for top 8 with a win, he would need to get in on tiebreakers, and Max Mick, who's playing at a side table against Andrei Strosky, if he were to win his, would have the same record as Kowalski, but currently has better tiebreakers by a pretty significant amount. It would be quite difficult for Kowalski's to jump him, but I mean, obviously you're going to play it out.
Right.
You know, there's still big prize money for him on the line and an outside chance. He needs a whole heck of a lot of things to go right, though.
And of course, Kowalski, member of the MPL, means that every single Mythic point that he picks up is extremely important, because if you stay within the top 20 of the 32 members currently in the MPL, you make it back into the MPL for next season. So, huge match for Kowalski on multiple different angles. And even if he wins, even if he gets 9th, you know, again, finishing with a 12-4 record would give you a substantial number of Mythic points.
Yeah, it's interesting because we get so focused on the top 8 at this point in the tournament, but a top 16 has huge ramifications, and the big tournament is also a nice payday as well, and a very respectable finish. You know, when you hang out with professional players enough, you know, they talk about top 16s like, oh, wow, you know, like you top 16 the Pro Tour, you top 16 the Mythic Championship. Like, that's a career achievement. Yeah, sure, it's not a top 8. It's not one of those ones that we put up on the big placard, but it gets respect from the pro community. It looks like, by the way, our main feature match is ready to go. So let's pop up back there and see if Oscar Christensen can finish off Elliot Basso, or if Basso can start mounting a comeback here. He's got to win 2 games in a row in this matchup. This is Sultai Mirror, but we use that term loosely here because the players have actually built their decks pretty differently from each other.
Yeah, very interested in how both of the players sideboarded. Given that we know about the 4X copies of Casualties of War in Elliot's deck, you have to imagine Oscar is going to be bringing in either some counter spells and negate and Disdainful Stroke, or those 3 copies of Veil of Summer that he has as well. I also see 2 copies. I also see 2 copies of Liliana Dreadhorde General. That is also a nice card. If you think Casualties of War no longer becomes an effective sideboard card because of the fear of cards like Veil of Summer, you might want to swap that in with Liliana Dreadhorde General there instead. Wow. Basso kept a glacially slow hand here. He's got 2 Hydroid Crises and a Veil of Summer in hand.
Oh, no.
Wow.
That's super slow.
Very, like, if Oscar had anything resembling a reasonable quick start, I mean, he would be in some trouble here.
He'd be taking damage right now.
Is this an Oko?
If it is, I like Oscar Christensen's chances from here, because we're probably going to have to see a Baby Crisis next turn from Basso. And he's going to go ahead and crack this.
I just don't think you can keep hands like this in this matchup. It's really important to either have early interaction, cards like Noxious Crest to deal with your opponent's potential turn 2 Oko, or have some acceleration so that you can run out your threats in time. So that one felt a little questionable to me, because I think, you know, with the mulligans, you know, with the London Mulligan, you just have the option of just having so many stronger starting hands than what Elliot has right now.
Yeah, right now, Elliot is actually considering probably just firing off Veil of Summer to draw a card on end step, because it's starting to look like he's going to be tapping out for these Crises, at least for the next turn or 2. He found a Wicked Wolf off the top of the library, but maybe he still just wants to do a Crisis first. Yeah, and there's no food going, there's nothing to hit with it, so he's just going to make the Baby Crisis the 2/2 flyer and draw a card. And he did find Oko, so maybe the card's starting to come together a bit for him. And he was fortunate that Oscar didn't have that super quick start. So maybe for Basso to get back in this thing. That said, there is an Oko on the other side of the battlefield, and that already puts Busseau behind, especially considering that Christensen could have something great here.
And wow, Christensen has lots of Noxious Grasps in hand. It looks like he has 3 copies.
He's not going to even bother with the Hydroid Krasis, it seems.
Right. Not too concerned about the loyalty count.
That was a Nissa Who Shakes the World as well now for Busseau. So, boy, from when we checked in on that hand, it has improved dramatically.
Right.
He picked up an Oko, a Wicked Wolf, and a Nissa in that last cycle.
Yeah, interesting thing about the Nissa here, he might want to wait a turn until he has actually the ability to protect the Nissa with that Veil of Summer in hand, or he might determine that he's behind enough on board that he can just run it out here. Even if Oscar did have a Noxious Grasp, he can attack for 3, but... okay, so it looks like he's going to probably take his time on the Nissa here and wait till he has the Veil of Summer available to protect against a Veil of Summer. Excuse me, a Noxious Grasp.
Oh, he's taking his time all right. He's going to go for the Hydroid Krasis here. With all the extra lands that he had in hand, you got to kind of assume, or you got to kind of agree with him here, right? That if he can protect Nissa, that could be a route to victory for him going forward. Well, it looks like Oscar says, I've got all these Noxious Grass. I'm going to go ahead and fire one off on Hydroid Krasis here, even if it is just 2-2. And Busseau says, you know what? I'll save it. He even found another one off of that Hydroid Krasis. Now, he can't cast it this turn, but he will still have it for when he goes for Nissa next turn. Not bad.
Yeah, this will be a nice turn here for Oscar, though. He does have a Nissa Who Shakes the World in hand, so next turn he can actually play land number 5, cast Nissa, untap Overgrown Tomb, attack, and still have the ability to cast Noxious Grasp.
Wow. Yeah, Oscar's really benefiting from being the first one on the battlefield with these cards. Sure, there's a pair of Krasis on the other side that are getting kind of annoying, but they're not devastating. And there we go. Nissa Who Shakes the World hits the battlefield. Pluses, as you predicted, Paul, on the Overgrown Tomb. And he even has a nice attack here as well.
Yeah.
Also, both Planeswalkers just out of range of those 2 Hydroid Krasis, both at 2-2.
He's going to make a food here and likely pass, keeping up the Noxious Grasp for a potential Nissa Who Shakes the World. Can be a little less worried about a card like Veil of Summer, given that he got Elliott to use one already.
Yeah, it's funny. I think if I'm sitting in Oscar's seat, I actually think Busseau has another one because he used it just to protect a 2-2.
Right.
Even though that wasn't the case, but now is the case.
Right.
So my read would have been wrong, but also right.
But at the same time, Busseau is just is behind enough on board. This matchup is all about kind of snowballing an advantage with Planeswalkers. And again, not keeping a hand with an answer for Planeswalkers or having a Planeswalker early. I mean, this might cost them here. And
yeah, very risky. Now, he's going to go for Oko of his own, and he's going to turn his Elk, I should say his Hydroid Krasis, into an Elk. But remember, it'll keep the +1/+1 counters while losing its ability. So it's a 5/5. And that allows him to get a clean attack in on either Planeswalker and threaten to kill it, forcing Oscar Christensen to block.
And I like this block. I think it's going to be a block before damage, go for the Noxious Grasp. Because even if Elliott does have a Veil of Summer, which he does, which is very